Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the St. Tammany Parish Zoning Commission meeting of November the 2nd. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Seeger. Ress.
Here.
McInnes.
Here.
Willie.
Here.
Doherty.
Here.
Barcelona.
Here.
Fitzmaurice.
Here.
Crawford.
Here.
Smale.
Here.
Randolph.
Here.
Truxillo.
Here.
Mr. Chairman, we have a quorum.
Thank you. Announcements, please silence all phones and electronic devices. If you disagree with any decision this commission makes, you have the right to appeal it to the council. And appeal cards are over on my right there on the railing. Speaker cards are also over on the railing to my right. Public speaking, and I'm going to emphasize this, we got a bunch of people, we got a bunch of speaker cards, but there's only 10 minutes for each side. 10 minutes for each side, 5-minute rebuttal. We're not going to extend it. So my suggestion is each side select some people that they want to speak in their behalf, but we're not going to go over. And after your case is heard, please exit the building. Don't go out in the lobby because the sound still comes back in. Please rise for the invocation by Commissioner Randolph and the pledge by Commissioner Willie.
Gracious Father, we thank you once again for another opportunity, blessed opportunity to be present tonight, Lord. We thank you for your grace and mercy that each and every one of us was able to experience this day. We thank you, Lord, for this opportunity right now to be amongst those, Lord, that's on this agenda. Bless our commissioners, Lord. Bless our staff of employees, our parish, as well as our citizens that we represent. Be with our families, Lord. Continue to lead, guide, and protect us. Lord, also bless those that's in uniform, Lord. Veterans, law enforcement officers, firefighters, medical personnel, Lord. Just bless them all. In your holy name, amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, Commissioners, in your packet, we had the minutes from the October 4th meeting. Hopefully you've had time to review them. Commissioner Randolph.
Motion to approve the minutes from the previous meeting.
Motion by Commissioner Randolph to approve the minutes from the October 4th meeting. Commissioner Crawford.
Second the motion.
Second by Commissioner Crawford. Any further discussion? Please vote.
The motion to approve carries.
Thank you. Helen or Aaron, will you have any cases to postpone?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. We have a request to postpone an item that is on the third page. It's actually item number 2 under the plan review, 2022-3058 PR, Tommy's Car Wash, and someone is here to answer any questions you may have.
All right, hold on just a minute. Let me find it here. Which one, Helen?
It is on the third page of the agenda, item number 2,
Okay.
under the plan review, 2022-3058 PR.
Okay. All right, let me read that one into the record, and then we'll move forward with it. This is on page 3 of the agenda. It's item 2, 2022-3058-PR, use Tommy's Car Wash, new construction, corridor is Highway 21 planned corridor. Zoning is HC2, Highway Commercial District. The use size is 5,207 square feet. The petitioner is Jordan Williams. The owner is Revive Holdings 21 LLC. Location, parcel located on the east side of Louisiana Highway 21, south of Cynthia Drive, Covington, Ward 1, District 1. This was postponed from the October 4th meeting. Commissioner Truxillo.
Is this a postponement for 1 month?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, I'll make a motion to postpone.
Okay, so we have a motion to postpone for 1 month, and Commissioner Randolph.
A second.
Second by Commissioner Randolph. And you are the owner for Tommy?
Yes, sir.
Okay, you have any comment?
Not at this time, sir. No, sir.
Okay.
Thank you for allowing the postponement.
Pardon?
Thank you for the postponement.
Okay, all right. All right, we have a motion and a second to postpone this item. Please vote.
The motion to postpone carries.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Helen, anything else?
No other requests.
Shame on you. Thank you. All right, we'll go back to the first item on the agenda. This is item 1, which is 2022-2839-ZC. Existing zoning's TND2, traditional neighborhood development. Proposed zoning is TND2, planned traditional neighborhood development. Parcel located on the north side of US 190 east and west of Honeybee Road, Slide L, Ward 9, District 11. It's 275.33 acres. The petitioner's George Kurt. The owner is Honeybee Holdings LLC, and this is in Council District 11, and this was postponed from the October 4th meeting. Staff?
Since this was last before you, the applicant has submitted revised plans. The most notable changes on those revised plans are a reduction in single-family units of 8, a reduction of multifamily units of 255. This provides a new total of proposed units of 11,010 units. An increase in size to the required neighborhood edge area along the western and northern perimeter of the site, and the addition of proposed 70-foot wide lots. In regards to the green space provided, the applicant has submitted revised plans which show an addition of 4.9 acres of recreational center and park space, and the reduction of 2.1 acres of Bayou Paquet green belt space, an increase of 0.7 acres of detention, drainage, and lake area, and a decrease of 5.9 acres of landscape and open space. In regards to the required T&D use types, and specifically the neighborhood center area, the applicant submitted a revised plan showing an increase in 8 acres, which is now proposed to be 18 acres, an increase of 0.8 acres designated as civic space, which is adding an additional civic space to the plan, an indication of the proposed general location of 2 live workspaces within the neighborhood center area, an addition of high-density multifamily area into the required neighborhood center area, and an increase in size in the village green area, which has been stated to host farmers markets, food trucks, entertainment, movie nights, athletic practices, and other similar events. In regards to the required mixed residential area, the applicant submitted a revised plan showing 11 residential units, including 6 single-family residential areas, 1 multifamily area, and 2 townhome areas with 2 live workspaces. The revised plan now shows the encroachment of a multifamily residential area into the neighborhood center area and the proposed location of 2 live workspaces. These changes bring the proposed T&D plan into greater compliance with the mixed residential area regulations. In regard to the neighborhood edge area, the applicant submitted a revised plan showing the addition of 70-foot lots. While the addition of the 70-foot lots within the neighborhood edge area does allow a greater mix of residential unit types, the largest potential lot within the subdivision would be 70 by 130, totaling 0.20 acre lot size. The applicant submitted market feasibility study along with their revised plans. Based on the outcome of this study, the applicant has taken the position that the Slidell area does not have enough established residential uses to accommodate large commercial developments, and the neighboring areas already have a saturated commercial market to contend with. Staff has determined that the analysis does not take interest in the benefit of commercial or retail development within close proximity to residential development. While the retail markets may be failing in the Slidell Mall area, there is still a need for closer services. According to the U.S. Census Bureau and the American Community Survey data, the average household in St. Tammany Parish contains 2.73 people. This means that the new proposed 1,310 home subdivision will contain an average of 3,576 new residents to the immediate area, which is actually 1.77 times greater than the 0.32 projected growth of the population within a 15-minute drive of the subject property. If the provided study is correct, this will increase demand to the already lacking commercial and retail services to the immediate area. The 3 comparable retail spaces analyzed within the market rent study are at least 11 times larger than the proposed commercial development within Honeybee. According to page 55 of the market feasibility study, the national average retail square footage per capita is 24 feet. Using 2.73 people that comprise the average household in St. Tammany Parish as provided by the U.S. Census Bureau and the American Community Survey data, this means that approximately 3,576 new residents produced by the Honeybee T&D will require over 85,000 square feet of commercial space. Staff has determined that the proposed 10,000 square foot of commercial development on 1.3 acres does not meet the daily needs of residents and it's not accomplishing the purpose of the T&D ordinance. To conclude, the applicant has submitted a formal application with the Army Corps of Engineers to clear, grade, and excavate and fill, directly impacting 182.9 acres of wetlands. The applicant proposed a contract with an approved mitigation bank to offset the adverse impact to jurisdictional wetlands.
That it?
That's it.
I still have about 20 pages here.
I just hit the high notes for you.
All right. Good evening, Mr. Shane.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Before we start the clock, the development or petitioner, we're going to have 3 speakers this evening, so we'll transition and utilize our 10 minutes. So I'm going to speak first and then make a handoff to Meta, our consultant that appeared at the public work session. Mr. Milson will speak first, followed up by Mr. Cerna.
Okay.
So whenever you're ready.
Let's go.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Jeff Shane of the Jones Fussell Law Firm representing Honeybee. And we come before you this evening seeking your recommendation for the general implementation plan for this TND2 project. As you know, tonight is the first step in the process, meaning it is your opportunity to consider the general implementation plan and make a recommendation to the council with reasons. Tonight is not the opportunity to analyze and review the infrastructure components or the infrastructure needs of the TND2, as those issues are more properly taken up when we submit the specific implementation plan that will later come to you as a planning commission. I would note that with regard to major infrastructure items that have been discussed in the past, we have a conceptual drainage plan that has been approved by your staff. We have a traffic study that is in the hands of LADOTD with words this week that we should get our recommendation from them in the month of November. We have the wetlands has been long since been submitted. The public comment period is over. We're in the process now of compiling responses to the public comments, and then we continue to work on the utility features as well. With regard to what's before you this evening, as you know, the case was initially filed in March. It came before you in July with a recommendation that we have a work session. And as a result of that work session, we sat down and looked at the things that we heard from the people, that we heard from you, and also the things that were in the previous staff report. As a result of that, we filed a revised general implementation plan on October 6th. And the significant changes in that plan included a 17% reduction of density to a total of 1,310 units, which was a reduction of 263 units from the original 1,578. I might add that that aggregate density is right in the middle of the range that is suggested by the ordinance. Number two, as staff has noted, we added a 70-foot wide lot along the neighborhood edge, primarily the northern and western perimeters of the development. We eliminated a multifamily area and replaced it with a less dense residential designation. We also added another civic use area to the site. The village center itself was enlarged from 10 to 18 acres, an 80% increase, providing for more uses, multiple uses. And rather than providing the code-mandated 20% open space, we provided 25% open space. And last but not least, we expanded the commercial component by providing 2 areas of live-work townhomes near the neighborhood green. And we also provided for the opportunity for farmers markets, food trucks, entertainment, and other similar activities in the center on weekends or special occasions. So as a result of making those changes, we feel that the staff comments are very complimentary in every regard as it relates to the changes that we have made. In fact, we see no negative comments other than the commentary with regard to the commercial component. And in that regard, we respectfully but strongly disagree with staff's suggestion that there's inadequate commercial. And why do we feel that way? Well, number one, the revised plan now includes 2 areas of live-work space that will provide people to have offices or businesses downstairs and live above. And additionally, we have provided again for the opportunity to have these special events such as farmers market, craft fair, entertainment, food trucks, and the like, similar to what we see at the trailheads and in the cities of Abita, Madisonville, Mandeville, Covington, and Slidell on the weekends. All of those things we think are very important local commercial components. We also commissioned an expert that put together a feasibility study that staff has alluded to that clearly stated that not more than 10,000 square feet of commercial brick and mortar was needed in this development. And why? It's because within the local 3-mile radius, there's 1.6 million square feet of commercial, and 600,000 square feet of that commercial is unfilled. Also, there's an absolute need for more population in order to sustain the additional commercial. So at the end of the day, we feel that we've met our task of providing a scaled amount of commercial to complement this TND2 development. Thank you for your time.
Okay, and you are?
Sir?
You are?
Kent Milson, Meta Planning and Design. Give me 1 second. I'll speak as I'm getting the presentation on screen. But as Jeff and staff both mentioned, when we presented before you last at the workshop, a lot of the presentation would focus on some of the key elements of the TND, or what a TND is, and kind of those key components. Want to try to bridge the gap of where that presentation was and the plan we have before you today. And those key components were a mixture of land uses, the very, very walkable, as well as the diversity of the land uses, and the open spaces spread throughout. So just briefly read a couple of these slides right here. This is our subject site off US 190. After we came back from presenting in July with the workshop, as Jeff mentioned, we took a lot of what the public had talked about in the public commentary, as well as staff comment and review. We've had several meetings with staff since then. We've done our resubmittal, and we've really tried to focus on what the goals of the TND2 district are. And it's the same of a lot of what we had discussed previously. It's that mixture of uses with the residential components, as well as making sure parks and open space are included within the neighborhood portions of the development, as well as providing a commercial or a village center type component that strives to give the opportunity to meet the needs for the residents, while also giving them some place that's walkable to come on the weekend or drop their dry cleaners off, those sorts of things. So, as staff mentioned, as Jeff mentioned, some of the changes we made from that original submittal to now, one of the big components on the residential side is we did increase that residential edge area. So now we are going to include, or planning to include, more diverse product. We've got a 70-foot lot now. It still meets that density range. We removed a multifamily, shifted some other products around. Our overall density is down that 265 some odd count, as Jeff mentioned. And then on the parks and open space, we did try to integrate those into the development more, spread them out so that no resident is ever more than a 5-minute walk or a quarter-mile walk from a nice open space within their little neighborhood, instead of having to go all the way to one end or the other. And then I'll let my partner Juan come and speak on the commercial aspects.
Good evening, everybody. Juan Serna with Meta Planning Design. With respect to time, I'll try to breeze through a little bit on some of the facts on the commercial. So as part of the initial design process and in coordination with staff and the rest of the development team, as Jeff said, we commissioned a market study of the existing commercial property. One of the comments we received from staff was regarding the location and more importantly, the size. As part of that planning process, the development team took a look at the extensive market data that was available to make sure that we were adequately viewing the situation and, more importantly, to properly size the land use components to serve the future residents of the community. As part of that coordination, we kind of looked at those metrics that Jeff mentioned. So again, within that 3 service square mile, there's 1.6 million. Now that seems like a lot, but more importantly, 30% vacancy is even more. Now, a lot of that used commercial space is the regional needs. That's what it currently serves. It's kind of the big box, kind of regional anchors, that type of bulk use. Now, these facts reflect a similar pattern of the current state of most suburban communities, right, which is an oversupply of unused or underutilized commercial space. In the staff report, there was a comment that a much larger commercial component might be needed. I believe that would be a disservice to not only our planned community, but the existing residents. We're only proposing a rightly sized neighborhood service center that is walkable commercial component that will serve our residents' daily need and is in line with the T&D goals of being walkable. The 80,000 square foot that was mentioned is drastically oversized for our needs. That large of a center would be comparable to a major power center that you will see along a major interstate that's highly traveled. We're only proposing something that would be used by our internal residents and hopefully satisfy some of the gaps for the existing surrounding neighborhood.
Okay, thank you. All right, I'm going to go to the folks that are here in opposition. And I've got a big stack of cards. Lee Domingue. And again, I'm going to emphasize 10 minutes.
Thank you, Lee Domingue. I reside at 34057 Bayou Liberty Road. I currently serve as the president of Bayou Liberty Association and represent its 250 members. We are adamantly opposed to this, the 4th iteration of Honeybee, and incidentally, we equally oppose the prior 3. You guys have all received a packet that we gave to you, which has several letters in the beginning of this packet, this book, and those letters are all from renowned and well-researched individuals and groups who also leave no ambiguity about the dangers of this project if it goes forward in this location. I'm going to name those, and I'm not going to go into any detail because we don't have time, but the North Shore River Watch, whose program director is Matthew Allen, clearly stated that this is a flood-zoned area, and he defines that very eloquently in a well-drafted, scathing report of Honeybee, this project, if it goes forward here. Now, there's a Dr. Elizabeth Smythe, who I believe works with planning and development at St. Tammany Parish. She also wrote a letter using St. Tammany Parish letterhead, and once again, called your attention to the drainage, the possible pollution associated with this project, and also the fact that it was never evaluated by the parish in 2008 because of lack of development at that time, and therefore it should have been designated as a critical drainage area. I still think it should have been a critical drainage area. And indeed, let me just point out that Matthew Allen, who is a certified floodplains manager and has wide experience in sanitation centers and devices, also said this is undeniably a floodplains area. Now, you also have a letter from Healthy Gulf. The Andrew Whitehurst is a program director, once again commenting very negatively about the effects of this development if it goes forward. The Pontchartrain Conservancy, Christy Trail is the executive director of that. It's Dr. Trail, also have written letters about this. There were 1,000 letters profiled in this document, which you each got copies of early this year. These are from residents in various communities located nearby this honeybee development, this planned development. The fact of the matter is, we as Bayou Liberty Association happened to receive 1,000. Many people did not copy us, so we presume there were many more than 1,000 that were actually written. But the subdivisions and homeowner associations, one copy of the page that I recently disseminated to you has just a list of those homeowner associations represented in these 1,000 letters. So obviously, there are a lot of people, a lot of citizens, a lot of homeowners, a lot of neighborhoods who are opposed to this as well. Now, there are two schools in close proximity here. Henry Mayfield is right across the street. I hear tell it's at capacity, and also Lake Castle. Both of these institutions will be impacted, if not by anything else but traffic. And there will be other issues with water flow, water runoff, drainage, and even pollution. And then finally, there's the Big Branch National Wildlife Preserve, which is to the south of Bayous Paquet and Liberty, all of which will be impacted. This is going to be a travesty if it goes forward. There are some immutable facts about this property. Number one, it is sensitive. It's primarily wetlands. It's 77% wetlands. These are facts and figures given by the developer. These are irrefutable. The Coastal Protection and Restoration Authority, CIPRA, in 2017 designated this property as coastal because of its proximity to Bayous Paquet and Liberty. So it is coastal in spite of what the developer's plot plans suggest. Now, there's also an incongruent zoning issue with the TND at this location. All the surrounding developed area in this region is A2, one house per acre. There's a small amount of A3, but the vast majority is A2. The point is, the developer is suggesting that there isn't enough population to support retail in the TND. Well, that's very possible because the area around it is zoned low density. It's designed to be low density by New Directions 2025. It's designed to be low density by New Directions 2040. New Directions in both instances defines a low density as one house per acre or A2. Now, in terms of a TND, I'm going to be very brief. Traditional neighborhood developments were meant to be one thing. It was designed to be a dense development that allows the developer to have more houses per acre, more houses in the area, because they, on the backside, have to provide retail for that community, allowing the community members to remain on the land, to be able to subsist, to be able to live, work, and play. And by the way, 10,000 square feet of structural retail does not a TND make. In no circumstance would that be in any way acceptable. Thank you very much for your time. Thank you for listening to our concerns. Thank you for your service.
Thank you. Mark Bryan.
Good evening. I'm Mark Bryan, 31245 Cypress Street, Lacombe. Ladies and gentlemen of the Zoning Commission, the general implementation plan for the Honeybee T&D must not be approved as proposed. Although we recognize many issues with this proposed development, including destruction of 212 acres of wetlands, increased potential for area residential flooding, increased potential for contaminated runoff to Bayous Paquet and Liberty, increased traffic loading on Highway 190, and failure to meet the intent of a traditional neighborhood district. My comments tonight will be focused on the traffic impacts and woefully inadequate retail space provided in this proposal. The developer is proposing 1,310 dwelling units, over 500 more than the minimum required by this zoning classification. As proposed, this development alone will more than double the traffic on Highway 190, which is an unimproved two-lane highway, to an estimated 23,755 total vehicle trips daily. These numbers were provided by the developer's traffic study. This will significantly impact safety for everyone driving on this highway, which does not have turn lanes except for Oaklawn Trace and Curtis Mayfield Elementary School. Highway 190 is also the only detour route for I-12 in the event of lane closure between Lacombe and Slidell, which already results in gridlock. So far, we have been unable to identify any Louisiana Department of Transportation projects or plans to improve Highway 190 between Lacombe and Tonson Road within the next 5 to 10 years. One of the basic tenets for T&D is to provide for daily shopping needs of its residents. One intent is to minimize the development's impact on the adjacent transportation infrastructure. The 10,000 square feet of commercial and retail space proposed is completely inadequate to fulfill those needs, using the existing T&Ds provided by the developer's consultant for comparison. Seaside has 135 square feet of commercial space per dwelling unit. Daybreak has 750 square feet. The Village of River Ranch has 2,248 square feet. Long Farm Village has 104 square feet. Honeybee has 7.6 square feet per dwelling unit. From the market feasibility study commissioned by D.R. Horton, the national average retail space per capita is 24 square feet. Honeybee per capita is 2.8 square feet. According to staff report, the proposed 10,000 square feet of commercial development does not meet the daily needs of residents and is not accomplishing the purpose of the T&D ordinance. If developed as zoned, area residents asked for a model traditional neighborhood district, which would live up to the full spirit and intent of the concept for the benefit of all area residents. As the first proposed T&D development in St. Tammany Parish, it is imperative to maintain a high standard for compliance to meet the zoning requirements. As proposed, the Honeybee General Implementation Plan does not meet the zoning requirements. I respectfully request that the Zoning Commission deny the proposed zoning change to planned T&D based upon this General Implementation Plan. Thank you.
Thank you.
If I may, please, I would like to ask residents that are here to show their presence and the fact that they're against this proposal, to please raise your hand.
Okay, thank you. All right, you had, pardon? Yeah, right, okay. You used up your time of 10 minutes, okay? You can use part of your rebuttal whenever we get to that. So we'll go to rebuttal, Mr. Shane. We will go to you, and then we will go to the citizens.
Thank you. With regard to the comments made by Dr. Domingue, most of them involved issues that are not before you this evening. Again, I think it's important for us to understand the process. The TND2 code, and this was in the staff report that you received in July, and I think again has been reiterated in the staff report, is really a two-step process. Tonight is the general implementation plan. Tonight is not the night that staff or you are asked to measure whether or not the issues of flooding, drainage, traffic, wetlands, et cetera, have been adequately addressed. It doesn't mean they're not important issues. They're very important issues, but there's a time and a place, and tonight is simply not the time. I would add, however, that this property is in all in flood zone X, a non-flood zone. None of it is in a critical drainage area, and there's a conceptual drainage plan that has already been approved by your staff. I would also mention to you that with regard to the commercial discussion debate that we're having this evening, I think there's a real fallacy in the staff report approach and also the comments made by the speakers this evening in this regard. We are the ones, our expert provided the standard of 24 square feet per person in terms of commercial need. And we agree that when built out, Honeybee will have approximately 3,500 residents. And if you do the math of 3,500 times 24, you get to a figure of about 85,000 square feet. The fallacy, however, is that there's no suggestion that 85,000 square feet of commercial have to be on site. And there's a couple of reasons why I think that's true. If you take a look at the code and you take a look at that long staff report we had tonight, there's no requirement as to the amount of commercial that must be injected. And there's a reason for that, and it's because each TND will be different in terms of its gross area, meaning that a 275 TND2 is going to be able to provide local neighborhood services, whereas a 500 or 700 acre TND2 might be able to do much more. And in this particular case, if you look in the 3-mile radius and you look at the existing commercial that is both in commerce but also that's dark, that's out of commerce, 600,000 square feet are dark within 3 miles of this site. That is why our expert came to the conclusion that not more than 10,000 square feet should be the brick and mortar commercial component. But we went beyond that. We added another live-work townhome area in the center of the project. Live-work meaning that you would have commercial downstairs opportunity and residential upstairs. We also developed the idea of being able to use our village green for weekend events, whether it's farmers market, entertainment, music, recreation, not just for the people of Honeybee, but people in the vicinity. So we think we've addressed that comment. And if I could, I'd like to yield the rest of my time to Mr. Cerna.
Really briefly, to reiterate the 24 square feet per capita, that's just a national kind of standard. That's not a requirement, as Jeff mentioned. That's only somewhat of a industry-wide accepted average of what to expect. In this case, in its current state, right now we have 92 square feet of existing commercial space per capita. So there's no reason for us to even include or necessarily add additional regional commercial uses, which would be the only thing that would fit in an 80,000 square foot center. In this case, we're doing something that's very scalable. Now, again, there's 10,000 square feet of commercial, but that does not include the live-work component that is above and beyond those 10,000 square feet, and the mixed-use green space that Jeff mentioned could serve as food truck services, farmers market in the weekends to help alleviate some of the produce needs of the residents. So in theory, there is far, far more commercial square footage that we have available as is needed, and as the community grows, we can convert and use some of that flexible space.
Thank you. All right, you had 17 seconds left, so we're going to
I've got nothing, I'm just unplugging.
Okay. All right, Donna, do you wish to speak?
Yes, sir, please.
Okay. You got 5 minutes or less.
Yes, sir. Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Donna McDonald. I live at 35075 Oak Ridge Avenue. Irrefutably, they are putting 1,310, proposed to put 1,310 slab-on-grade homes on this site. I attended the Parish's FEMA 2.0 workshop earlier this year, and I have reviewed that recorded copy multiple times. The seminar was presented by Gilbert Gadon, the Regional Flood Insurance Liaison. As a result of the information that I have learned, I categorically believe that any developer who disregards the impacts of slab-on-grade residences in a sensitive area south of I-12 and I-10 should not be allowed to build in St. Tammany Parish. Allowing developers to disregard future impacts of their construction methods is dangerous and places the health and safety of the residents in jeopardy. Mr. Gadon implored the St. Tammany Parish to not become a Houston, by which he meant they were allowing building in sensitive areas and near bayous without taking proper mitigation steps to mitigate flood damage. As a parish, we must hold developers to a higher standard. All of the residents along along Bayou Liberty can attest to the effects of more frequent and more serious flooding on our properties and all too frequently in our homes. I ask you to protect the treasure that is Bayou Liberty. The bayou is a designated natural and scenic waterway, and nestled along the banks are 15 or more historic structures. Many of these structures are older than the United States. Almost all predate the Civil War. Almost all are privately owned and maintained. These beautiful but delicate structures are slowly being destroyed by the effects of flooding and pollutants caused by overdevelopment. Once they are gone, there is no coming back. They cannot be replaced. Thank you for the opportunity to present to you tonight. Thank you for your service to your community, to our community, and I will be happy to answer any questions you may have. And I'd like to cede to the next person.
Thank you. All right, you got 2 minutes and 33 seconds.
May I address one thing which was said by Mr. Shane?
Sure, you're in rebuttal right now.
In terms of retail, the staff report delineated 6 different TNGs, and 3 were outside the state, 3 were inside the state. The 2 that were commented most often by the developer in their most recent iteration was the one that's in Baton Rouge and one in Lafayette. East Baton Rouge Parish is the largest parish by population in the state. Lafayette is the 5th largest metropolis in Louisiana. These TNDs are in close proximity to those areas. That makes the retail perhaps more viable. The point is, this area should never have been zoned TND because it is less dense. It is a sensitive region. It's south of I-12. The area around it that's been developed is A2. Yes, perhaps a TND doesn't belong there, but the fact of the matter is 10,000 square feet only of retail is a poor example of what supplies a neighborhood of 1,310 residents their daily, sustainable, ongoing needs. It just doesn't happen that way. Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, anyone else that's against, I've got 2 people, and you've got a minute and 12 seconds.
Sharon? Come on. First of all, my name is Bennett Harris. I live back there. My name is Bennett Harris. I live back there. I'm the last house back there. I'm in flood zone C. But I do get water across the road because Bayou Paquet is not there for me to drain into. And he keeps saying it's a flood zone. It will be a flood zone. Thank you, Chief.
Excuse me to talk real fast, because I already talk fast. Let me explain this to you all. Number one, we got a minute and something to share, and we live. My land is running from Dixie Ranch Road to the Honeybee. We get 1 minute or 2 minutes, half a minute. We've been overlooked. It is not Bayou Liberty, it is Bayou Bonfaka, okay? And when Bayou Bonfaka back up from Pontchartrain, it's coming at us in 2 directions. The next thing is, I don't care what the developer is doing. We've been fighting a little short of 2 or 10 years from being a whole 200 years of fighting developers in the Bonfaka area. We have watched Slidell grow into Bonfaka. We have watched all these areas smother us in. Please give us a voice in Bonfaka. And in his last 3 minutes, do your job.
Thank you. All right, that's both sides have had a chance to speak and also rebut, so I'm going to close it to the public and bring it back to the commission. Commissioner Smale.
Okay, so those were all good, great speakers, great presentations. I actually am technically the commissioner for District 11. I have a business right down the street from where this is proposed to be placed. I'm going to keep it kind of short because of the presentations were so good by Mr. Domain, Brian, and Donna. There's obviously a lot of flooding issues, traffic issues, wetland issues, but my biggest issue is it's just not a TND. It's not, you can't, a TND is designed to where you are, the residents can stay on the property, live, work, and play, where they can go to have enough retail space to where they can go to dinner, go get a haircut, stay on the property. That's what a TND is all about. It's for the residents to live, work, and play on the property. So, you know, without that possibility here, and then to say that they can go off the property to the other retail that they say is dark anyway, is just I think it's not logical to say that they can go. There's plenty of commercial development in the area that they don't need to put it in their TND, when that is actually the definition of a TND is to have a place for people to stay on the property, live, work, and play. It just does not, this is a zoning meeting. It does not meet the criteria for a TND. I make a motion to deny.
All right, we have a motion by Commissioner Smale to deny. Commissioner Barcelona.
I have a question for staff. Regarding the minimum density required, there is a minimum density required for a TND, is that correct?
No, there's not.
Okay. In the staff report, it says permitted density is 5 to 8 dwelling units per acre.
That's a maximum suggested density, 5 to 8. There's not a minimum.
Okay. Okay. All right. All right. Thank you.
If you'd like me to address that too, the T&D ordinance says 5 to 8 plus single-family units. It's been my opinion that that is a parameter of 5 as a minimum, 8 plus to a maximum, but not a hard minimum and not a hard maximum, because the ordinance itself says 8 plus. So a parameter of single-family density to support a T&D.
Okay, so the developer is not required to stay at a certain minimum. Is that just?
In all honesty, that hasn't been tested in the courts, but based on my review of the ordinances and planning principles, it's my opinion that it's a parameter
Okay.
that's been established in the ordinance.
Okay, all right. That's it. Thank you.
All right, Commissioner Crawford.
Yes, I concur with comments made by Commissioner Smale, and I'll second the motion.
All right, we got a motion and a second to deny. Commissioner McInnes.
I've got a few comments, as y'all probably expected. The planning and development staff did a thorough analysis of the project, and I really appreciate that. Took a lot of time reading it. And I agree with their findings. It does not qualify as a T&D. It doesn't meet the purpose requirements as defined. It's too dense. It has architecture that could be anywhere USA, not reflect the character, the historic character of the area, and it's not even close in consistency with the 2040 plan. In particular, the commercial activity space, I agree with some of the comments, is grossly inadequate. If you look at Seaside, theirs is 2.4% allotted for commercial. River Ranch, 25%. The 100-acre settlement at Willow Grove and Baton Rouge is 1%. Honeybee is 1/2 of 1%. And it has a higher density to support these projects. I believe if the market analysis does not allow for larger commercial allotment and civic improvements to the area, then perhaps you wait until it does. This is our first T&D2 in the parish, and we shouldn't start by bending the rules right out the gate. We need to get it right. I have a lot of concerns for the community that lives immediately north of this proposal. I drove out there yesterday, and it's clear that they're going to be impacted by this. They're going to have to drive every day through the town center of the Honeybee project. The town center where you try and congregate activity. The development where you try to minimize the importance of cars. But you're going to have cars going in and out, and they're not going to want to have to slow down for what's going on in a community they're not part of. And I'm also concerned about that, some of these are impoverished communities that wouldn't really benefit from this project. But I'd mostly like to focus on my area of expertise, which is wetlands and ecology. And I would argue with Mr. Shane that we are allowed to look at environmental conditions in making our decisions on zoning. We cannot require data at this point in time, but we're allowed to look at the environmental conditions. And it's very important that we do. I've handed out some maps to our commissioners, and it's really important to look at the regional context of our projects and not just a myopic view of the 275 acres. And I just pulled up the data from the Parish website that shows the hydric soils, and which is a pretty good indication of where you have wetlands. And the dark blue indicates very wet soils. In the southeast portion of the parish is it's a concentration of the very wet soils, which are it's a flatwoods region where you have these broad flats that do not drain well, and there's a concentration in this region of the parish, and Honeybee is at the southern end of it. Then this area is several square miles and thousands of acres. The timber companies tried to drain it. The parish has tried to drain it. You can't drain it. It didn't work. It's very wet. The timber companies have to row it up like a farmer in a cornfield and plant the trees on the rows. It's wet. It's still wet with all of this activity. I want to give you an example of the power of the water and the flatwoods. As the manager of the Abita Creek Flatwoods Preserve in the past, we built a boardwalk, a half-mile boardwalk. We got the wood delivered by Abita Lumber. It's all wrapped in metal straps, a half-ton weight of lumber. They left it overnight. we had a big rainstorm. The water moved that bundle of wood 300 feet. I was amazed. The boardwalk is about 3 feet in elevation. It goes underwater all the time. There's sheet flow evident on the boardwalk. Until we had this boardwalk, I had no idea. St. Tammany staff, Dr. Smythe, says this site goes under, Honeybee goes under 1 to 2 feet, according to parish engineers. As we know, about 80% is jurisdictional wetland. Jurisdictional wetlands are determined by 3 characteristics: wetland soils, wetland hydrology, water flow, which is the hydrology, and wetland vegetation. Only when all 3 are present can it be classified as a wetland. Biologists follow a standardized process, walking numerous transects through the property, taking data at select data points. They dig soil pits and analyze the soil. They record evidence of water flow and the vegetation that requires hydric soils to be there. The reference of small spoil banks along the channel that is the upper watershed of Bayou Paquet, it is very minimal impact on this site. And as we all know, wetlands provide valuable benefits to our communities, but most importantly, in this case, water or stormwater storage. When we fill these wetlands, the benefits are gone, but the water's still got to go somewhere. Insurance rates have been brought up, and FEMA and otherwise are increasing to better reflect the risk that we continue to put people in harm's way and are causing harm to the neighbors surrounding these projects. I have a LiDAR map that I got developed which shows topography of the Honeybee area and surrounding vicinity. It shows a drop in elevation from the north end of the site, which is around 20 feet, to a low of about 10 feet on the southern end. That is a significant drop in elevation in this part of the world. And where's that water going to go? It's going to go south to the subdivisions south of 190, such as Centennial Park, where the elevation of some homes there is below 9 feet. The FEMA records show about 1,600 structures have flooded in the area that they call the Lacombe North. And that includes the area south of the Honeybee project. Over 40 structures are repetitive flood structures. So I ask, how do you add 2 feet or more fill of clay, cover it with impervious surfaces, take away the water storage capacity, and not impact your neighbors upstream and downstream? You might reduce the rate of discharge after 100-year storm events as required, but you're not going to reduce the total discharge. And consider that we had 3 500-year storm events in a 4-year period recently. What happens then? What happens to the discharge after a 500-year storm event? We're in this project's in the Bayou Bonfoucault Liberty Bayou watershed, Huck 12 watershed. What happens when we have high tide, storm surge, strong southeast wind in Lake Pontchartrain, and Bayou Paquet cannot drain, and Bayou Liberty cannot drain? What happens as sea levels rise the predicted 1 inch per year in the Lake Pontchartrain Basin? We're talking a foot a decade. Some communities along Bayou Baquet and Bayou Liberty are already tidally influenced. Honeybee is about 3 miles north of the lakefront. It currently reportedly takes days for water to go down after a normal rainfall. We're talking coastal, folks. In conclusion, developers, they're not evil people going around looking for wetlands to develop. They'd rather avoid them. So it begs the question, why would D.R. Horton want to build here? I can only guess, but I don't know. But I would argue in this region of excessive wetlands, with the neighbors, the impact on neighbors that you need to consider, this is not the right place. Unless you consider new ways to build, elevated housing with pier construction, exponentially expand the green space, avoid and preserve more wetlands. You know, normally we'd have this meeting yesterday and it was Halloween. So I'm gonna use a pun here and say, we've seen this horror story before. And it does not have a happy ending. I can't, along with the previous commissioners, I cannot support this T&D2 plan as designed. It's better, but it's still got a long way to go. I appeal to my fellow commissioners and to Councilman Drum. Status quo is not working anymore. We can do better. St. Tammany deserves nothing less.
Commissioner Rest.
There's not much left there. Commissioner McGinnis, I think, has shown her expertise and her knowledge of what she's talking about. And first of all, I want to thank her for the effort she put forward, her ongoing concern for these wetland areas and this development work that we do. And I think she's right that it isn't about developers, if they had better places to go, they'd go, but they're looking for where they can find stuff, and this is not the right place. And our role, as we've been trained, is about the health, safety, and welfare of the people. And in my mind, it's pretty clear cut that this project does not meet those requirements to maintain and assure the health, safety, and welfare of the people. And I have to completely agree with the commissioners that have already spoke. So thank you.
Thank the citizens, the developer, and the commissioners that have spoken. If I don't see anyone else in the queue, so I'm going to go ahead and call for a vote on the motion to deny. Please vote.
The motion to deny carries.
Going to give y'all a chance to leave. If you want to stay, that's great. But if you don't, that's fine too.
beginning, I had left the podium on, so it was blank on the big screen, but they can't see the vote on the little one. Did you happen to notice that that was working? It wasn't? Oh, okay. Raw. Get lost. Did you happen to notice if those little screens were working earlier, or they were all flickering like that? Right, when I forgot to take the podium off, yeah. But those, I mean, I don't want to get pissed off because they can't see the vote on those. Oh, it's been like that? Okay, all right. I just want to make sure, oh, all right. I want to make sure that it wasn't messed up from that, you know? All righty. Thank you. Having fun yet? TV?
Didn't realize how bad it was. People were coming in like, what's wrong with the TV? And it had all these like dark spots on it. But it happened to it was so long and so much time until the point that
You didn't know.
we never noticed. And I'm like, who's talking about it? And then I finally ran some tests on it. You know, there's a TV. It's like, yeah, 65-inch TV, like $100.
Really? I wanted to go. Best Buy? Because I had one for outside New Glen's.
No, just such a I'll talk to him about it.
So you got it at Best Buy? You got it at Best Buy? I need to go get one. Wait, what? No. I think my nipple's gonna fall off. I knew that would make you laugh. It's true. You don't want to see that happen? All right, let's see. Frost Day. Oops, my speaker was on. Oh.
So they're going to introduce it this month. Do you remember if there was any opposition to it? And they passed it? What I would do if I were you is give your councilman a call and just ask them if they think we should make it. No, you definitely don't need one there. The meeting.
Hi, how are you?
I appreciate your help here.
I've got a memory stick with a couple of photos on it. Whenever I come up to speak, is there any way I can plug that in to show it, or do I need to bring my own device to do that?
You need to bring your own device.
Can I use yours? Okay. Thank you.
If you would have told me, I would have set it up, but
I mean, they've seen it 9 times. Put administrative comments at the top and send it all in.
Tuesday, Election Day,
Oh, yeah.
Friday, Veterans Day. Well, some people just got it all. Mitchell.
talking about. You got it all? Got it all. Why does he have it all? What comp time? I'm done from sick time. What shots did you get? No, but it will probably break even, so it's not too bad. Yeah, so you'll be here Friday. He'll be here Friday? Yeah. I guess you don't have it all. Fine.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to get back to the agenda, and we're going to move forward. Thank y'all for your patience and everything. We're going to go to item 2. It's case number 2022-3005-ZC. Existing zoning is A2 Suburban District. Proposed zoning is HC2 Highway Commercial District. Location, parcel located on the south side of Louisiana Highway 22, east of Mitcham Road, north of Cialona Road, being parcel A2, Madisonville, Ward 1, District 4. It's 2 acres. Petitioner Stephen M. Blanc, and the owner is T&B Properties LLC, Stephen M. Blanc, Council District 4. And this was postponed from the October 4th meeting also. Staff?
As you just stated, Mr. Chairman, this case was in front of you last month. We had a chance to do maybe a little bit more homework and to determine that the property next to the property in question was rezoned to HC2 in 2019 for a depth of 400 feet. So we're aware that, the proposed zoning change will create an increase in the intensity of the potential uses of the property. But I just wanted to bring this up to your attention that the 400-foot is what was approved for the property to the west of the property in question, and it was rezoned to HC2 in 2019.
Thank you. Mr. Marone, good evening to you.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the Commission. Paul Marone on behalf of the petitioner. As was noted, you'll recall that this case was heard last month. There was actually a motion to approve the request, and then there was some discussion about the preference of the Commission to have a buffer along the back of the property. Unfortunately, at that time, I wasn't able to reach my client to give me the authorization to make the amendment, so it was tabled so I would have the opportunity to do that. I've obviously now spoken to my client, and so with the discussion last month in mind, I would propose to amend our request to a depth, to rezone the property to a depth of 450 feet. So as Ms. Lambert just noted, the parcel next to us went to 400 feet. We're proposing an additional 50 feet. The reason is this parcel is a little bit deeper than the parcel to our west, and our intent was to try to get it to that tree line that you see there. Our intent is to leave those trees as is, not to disturb those at all. At the 450 mark, it will still leave us with a 100-foot buffer on the west end and a 130-foot buffer on the east end that will remain residentially zoned and provide a buffer to anyone to the south. So we would amend our request accordingly and ask for your consideration and approval of the amended request. And I'll be happy to answer any questions that any of the commissioners might have.
Thank you, Mr. Marone.
Thank you.
Anyone in the audience wish to speak against or in favor? All right, I'm going to close it to the public and bring it back to the commission. Commissioner Crawford.
I think that's a good concession. I'll make a motion to approve. As amended, yes.
Motion by Commissioner Crawford, to approve as amended. Commissioner Truxillo.
Second as amended.
Second by Commissioner Truxillo as amended. Commissioner Randolph.
Quick question, just for clarity. Paul, so we're increasing from 450 to 500? Or?
No, so we're reducing. So right now, the depth of the property on the west line is 555 feet.
Okay.
And we're reducing it to 450 feet.
Gotcha.
On the east side, the depth is 585 feet, and we're reducing it to 450 feet.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Commissioner Smale.
I think you've successfully addressed our concerns, which was to not disturb the tree line, the buffer zone between the neighbors and this property. So, yes, I support this.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Commissioner McInnes.
Like Commissioner Smale, I just want to say thanks, Paul, and to the owner for listening to our concerns and addressing them.
Okay. I see no one else in the queue. We have a motion and a second to approve. Please vote as amended.
The motion to approve as amended carries.
All right, we go to item 3. Cases 2022-3019-ZC. It's a text change. Ordinance to amend the St. Tammany Parish Code of Ordinance, Part 2, Land Development Code, Chapter 130, Unified Development Code, Article 5, Overlays, Division 6, Plan Quarter District, Section 130-1814-Special Design Standards to limit hours of operation for certain uses within the Highway 21 Plan Quarter Overlay, Ward 1, District 1. This was brought to us by Councilman Dean. It was introduced 8/4/22, and it was postponed from the October 4th meeting. Staff?
This is a text change to add language to limit the hours of operation for a car wash that would be abutting residential zoning, to limit the hours of operation from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m.
Okay, thank you. I have 2 cards here, and both say that they're against, but they're not indicating they want to speak. Jordan Williams, you wish to speak?
Yes, sir.
Okay, one of you come up. Good evening. Your name was?
Frank DiVittorio.
Okay.
And I'm here on behalf of actually Jordan Williams, who is the owner of Car Wash Revive 21 LLC. Mr. Williams owns the Tommy's Express car washes. He has one location on Highway 190 and one in Slidell. And he's got the proposed site here that y'all have seen a few times on Highway 21 that's in the Highway 21 corridor. We're opposed to this provision, this change. He operates normally between the hours of 6 and 9 a.m., 6 a.m. and 9 p.m. And I sent a letter to y'all this afternoon. I'm not sure if it's made it to you. Attached to it, it's got some reports and studies we've done also. The purported issue that's trying to be addressed with this ordinance change is to address sound issues. As you all know, there's currently a moratorium on new car washes in place so that sound issues and other developmental issues can be studied. At this time, we do not believe that this would address any of those reported issues or help improve them. As you know, Highway 21 is a busy road. We took some sound samples, decibel readings there. They were emailed to you in the packet. I have copies of what I emailed if y'all would like them. But the noise readings at the Highway 21 site in its current condition is essentially equal to or greater than the Highway 190 Tommy's Express when it's operating. So there's already noise there, and the car wash system is not, according to the decibel readings, is not really going to add to that. We also had an acoustic engineer do a study in which he indicated that building a sound barrier wall would actually reduce the sound by half perceived on the other side of the wall. So we believe that there's other ways to address the sound issue other than kind of a nuclear option of shutting the business down. There's a need for this business. There's customer demand. That's why he operates. There's Mr. Williams services thousands of customers a month. Between the hours outside of this proposed limitation, those are St. Tammany residents. Those are people that live and work and vote here. It provides a benefit to them. And again, there's a way to address the sound issue for neighbors without harming Mr. Williams' business or depriving those other residents of the car wash. There's been no, in terms of public health and safety issues and things, there's been no evidence or representation that there's any kind of crime issue or traffic issue or anything that changes on the property or anything between those hours to base that those hours of operation change on. The operating at these hours allows residents who work out, across the causeway to get back and forth to wash their cars evenings before school. It allows teachers to wash their cars before school. It allows nurses who are working shifts 7 to 7 to get to a car wash if they want to during these hours. It also, with the current geographic definition of how it's defined, it would put Mr. Williams' business at a competitive disadvantage. It's very narrowly, the geographic basis for this is very narrow, whereas a car wash almost theoretically, essentially, that might share a border with Mr. Williams would not be subject to this restriction. I think that kind of covers the basis here. Also, right now, we think this is also premature because, again, there's a moratorium already in place where these type of things are supposed to be being studied or considered. We think there's other more scalpel-type tool approaches that can be used to address the sound issues than the nuclear option. Other things that distinguish Mr. Williams' business also in that even the vacuum systems are different in that this is not one big, giant, central vacuum that runs continuously. They're individual vacuum cleaners that turn off when they're not in use. So they're single units. So if the system is operating only at 10 or 20% capacity, there's only 10 or 20% of the vacuums running. It's not a giant thing. And again, like I said, I'd point your attention that probably the most probative information is what we sent you there, in that there are actual sound readings, that there's already noise there. We're not shutting this business down doesn't alleviate the sound experienced by the neighbors because it's already at a level that's louder than the car wash. And unless we're shutting down Highway 21 at 7 and the interstate and, restaurants, bars, any kind of thing that has any outdoor activity or noise, it's really not addressing the problem. We recognize we want to work with the neighbors and have been trying to work with them. Mr. Williams had even actually agreed to construct this sound barrier before it was a requirement. And we've continued to work with the neighbors trying to address this through other means that allow him to operate. And if we can operate and control the sound, then why do we need to punish Mr. Williams? If there's any questions or anything. And I don't know if y'all, again, if I said it, I don't know if y'all got copies of it. I have here if you'd like me to hand them to you also. And so at this time, again, this could be, we circled back to this, it can always be brought up again before the expiration of the moratorium. But at this time, we just think it's premature and would like to ask that you either deny this or recommend against this, or at least table it pending a more comprehensive addressing of the sound issues. Yes, please.
Thank you.
These are basically attachments.
All right, you were speaking against the proposed ordinance, right?
Correct. We're against the limitation on the hours of operation of the car wash.
Okay, all right. Anyone else in the audience wish to speak against the ordinance? Anyone wish? Okay.
Hey, Council, thank y'all for hearing this. I just want to let you guys know I'm Jordan Williams. I've lived here in this community my whole life. Graduated from Mandeville High. Started a detailing business when I was in high school. This business is how I supported myself and my family for over 26 years in this community. I've sacrificed so much with the dream to build a car wash. Restrictions to my business operation will severely hurt me and my business. It will also hurt the residents in the community, restricting the time that they can wash their car. We are open at the times that we're open, because I'm a local car wash business. I interact with all my guests. I listen to all the guests in our community. The people of this community requested the times that we operate. If we did not have the request, we wouldn't be open. Countless requests from the early workers in this community, countless requests from the late workers of this community. We listened and adjusted to accommodate the people of this community that otherwise would not have the opportunity with their work schedule. I simply ask that we listen to all people in our community. If noise is the issue, let's address noise, not time, I'm 100% certain that we can work together and make a solution for a worry of noise. We will work together with district council and neighbors as we have been, and we have some really interesting studies that were done professionally that show that the sound barrier wall that we're willing to put up would actually make the residents behind half of what's being read now. So it's actually a huge benefit to the residents behind us, and that's done by a big whatever firm that does this nationally. And I just pray that we could, again, maybe deny this time and move forward and try to work on the sound portion of it, please. I appreciate you very much, and thank you for your time.
All right, thank you. Anyone else in the audience wish to speak in favor of this ordinance? All right, seeing no one, I'm going to close it to the public and bring it back to the commission. Commissioner Rest.
I had a question for staff. I guess I didn't know we have a moratorium against car washes right now in the parish?
Yes, that was passed by the council last month for this corridor district.
Okay, I guess I think they're spot on. I think we're addressing the wrong thing. If noise is the problem, why aren't we addressing noise instead of time? I think the argument is valid. There's another car wash already along this route, I think. Isn't there one up there further close to 1085? Isn't there a car wash already in place? But does it abut a residential area?
No.
It doesn't. So it wouldn't be required to meet these guidelines because it doesn't abut.
Correct.
So it's a competitive advantage for them, I guess you'd say, huh? Obviously, it seems like it to me.
I think their hours comply with the 7 to 7 that's in this proposed.
But they could run more if they want. They're free to go. I mean, I just think we're addressing the wrong thing here. I think we have noise ordinances, I believe, in the parish. I don't know how strict they are, but it seems to me it's already something in place that says if your business is too loud, there should be something there to protect. This just feels like it was, I don't know. I guess I'd say I don't know it was given the thought it should have been given. So I move to deny this again.
We have a motion by Commissioner Rest to deny. Commissioner Truxillo.
Staff. Hello. Hello. How you doing? This ordinance is just for car washes, not for mechanic shops or anything else, correct?
That's correct.
It seems like I second it. I'm not saying I second the deny.
Commissioner Willie.
Yes, the staff as well. How many car washes do we have? Somebody said there was one. Are there's more than one in Highway 21 corridor?
I think there's one currently between 12 and 1085.
Pretty much.
There's only one in the whole length? It just seems like there's more. I don't.
As far as I know.
The property in question does.
Okay.
Come to the microphone.
The property that I'm redeveloping is a Chevron that has a car wash on it right now.
So we have two?
Then you have another car wash down 21 that's similar to the gas station car wash. Then you have another car wash further down 21,
Okay,
yes, sir.
thank you. Does our ordinances now on Highway 21 corridor, do they have any time limitations on any businesses whatsoever?
No.
Okay. And would the existing car washes that are existing, 2 or 3, we're not sure how many we got there now, or they would be grandfathered in as far as operation? As far as they open to 10 o'clock, whatever it is, they would still be able to continue to operate, right, if this ordinance passes?
I believe that this would still apply to all of those within the corridor district.
They will have to change their hour of operation if this ordinance passes?
Right, I need to do some research on
So it might be
whether they have
grandfathered
a legal non-conforming use, but
Right.
I believe that they would be subject to the change in the ordinance.
Yeah, I think I'm like Mr. Rest. I think they need to address the noise, not the time of operation. Thank you.
Okay, Commissioner Fitzmaurice.
Yeah, I agree as well. I think this is just, I don't know, miswritten or misunderstood, but there is one line that talks about abutting residential. So it would only apply to those businesses which abut residential zone properties. The other two don't. So it is very specific to this one site. So I agree that the council will have to send us something different to look at.
Commissioner Swale.
And is it true that the proposed car wash right next to it would not be subject to this because they do not have an entrance on Highway 21? Is that?
No, the Take 5 car wash that's currently in your packet tonight for planned corridor review also abuts residential.
So it's in the corridor?
Yes.
So it would have to, yeah.
Yes.
And do we know why there's a moratorium? What was the reasoning behind the moratorium against car washes?
I don't want to suppose that I know what Councilman Dean, but based on my presence at the meeting, I think that due to these 2 applications for 2 car washes that are in such close proximity and that are in the planned corridor district, which abuts longstanding residential neighborhoods, he wanted to do further study on what could be done to protect the neighbors while still allowing businesses to conduct, their business on Highway 21.
And how long is the moratorium?
It was a 6-month moratorium, I believe.
Well, there must be a lot of people that need car washes, for sure. There's a big business, lots of car washes going up in Slidell also. But, yeah, this does seem to unfairly target one certain business type. That's all.
Anything else, Chris?
No, sir.
Commissioner Barcelona.
Emily, the automated car washes are subject to the noise ordinances, right?
Yes.
What do the noise ordinances say?
Ooh, I looked at them today, but for highway commercial properties, there's morning and night decibel levels that are in the ordinances, and I want to say that it's 70 decibel at the night hours that are defined in the ordinance. I don't remember what those are, and 80 during the day.
So if this automated car wash operates middle of the night and it produces too much noise, they're out of compliance?
Yes.
Okay. All right. That's it. Thank you.
Commissioner Randolph.
Yes, Mr. Can't think of your name. Yeah, Jordan. The car wash that we're talking about now at the Chevron service station.
Yes, sir.
That car wash has not been in operation, but you are now renovating it and really bringing it back up to standards.
Yes, sir.
To operate that car wash, right?
We're actually doing a fully redevelopment. We actually fired the car wash up now. The car wash that is there, it produces an alarming 99.8 decibels. That is, the neighbors are hearing that. It's right in their backyard. So what we're doing, this old equipment, 20 years old, whatever, we're building, Tommy's Express, we built the best, most advanced car wash in the world, so bafflers, our decibel readings are much lower than that, and we're spinning the whole entire car wash, where the loudest part of the car wash, the blowers, is basically on Highway 21, where there's already readings of 87.9 decibels just from the traffic.
Well, and my point was for the reason for anyone who want to leave out to think that this car wash has been in operation. It's not. You're renovating, you're rebuilding, and you're calling it your name brand, Tommy's.
Yes, sir.
And I'm gonna tell you guys, I used to love to wash cars myself, but I'm getting older, and because we do travel a lot in St. Tammany, and sometimes the earlier the better, the later the better, and a lot of us carry a lot of late hours, and I think this needs to be revisited as well. I agree. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Commissioner Willie.
And just to add one more thing, I know there's, car washes may make noise, but there's other businesses as well that generate noise probably greater than car washes along that corridor, so that's all.
Okay, we have a motion to deny. So this will go back to the council with a recommendation to deny, and there will be some comments that legal will put in there that the reason it was denied, right? Okay. All right. So we have a motion to deny. Please vote.
Ms. McInnes? The motion to deny carries.
All right. One down, one to go. Thank you. All right, we go to item 4. Case is 2022-3046-ZC. Existing zoning is A1 Suburban District. Proposed zoning is HC3 Highway Commercial District. Location, parcel located on the south side of US Highway 190, west of Honey Island Marina Road, Slide L, Ward 8, District 13. It's 5.5 acres. The petitioner is Joe Strain. Owner is 465564 Highway 90 LLC, Joe Strain, Council District 13. Staff?
The subject property is a 5.5 acre parcel that was previously occupied by commercial uses prior to St. Tammany's comprehensive rezoning. The property now sits cleared and vacant of any structures. Per the applicant's zoning request application, the most previous structure was a convenience store that is no longer in service. The subject property abuts undeveloped land to the east, a single residence to the north across US Highway 90, and undeveloped property to the south and west. The site is flanked by property zoned A1 Suburban District to the east and south, but is also adjacent to property zoned HC2 Highway Commercial District and PF2 Public Facilities District to the west, as well as across the highway to the north. Based on the typical rezoning pattern for the undeveloped property along this portion of Highway 90 and the Parish line, there seems to be a number of parcels that have been rezoned for highway commercial or industrial uses and/or public facilities. If approved, the applicant would be able to use any of the following uses for HC2 Highway Commercial listed on the report.
Thank you. Mr. Strain. Good evening.
Good evening.
You've heard the staff report. Do you have any additional comments?
No. We're a boat dealer. We'll do boat storage, some minor repair, but we're asking for the zoning just for the size that we need in order to do it. We're in between 2 boat launches at that property. So I don't know if you have any questions, but.
Okay. Let me see if there's anybody in the audience that wishes to speak for or against. Anyone in the audience wish to speak for or against on this item? All right, I see no one. I'm going to bring it back to the commission. Commissioner McInnes.
I'm just looking at the staff report and the location of the project. Future land use, coastal conservation area, flood zone A10, critical drainage, yes. The uses that this zoning would allow, nightclubs, bars, all sorts of things. Drive-in movie theater. I mean, we have to look at what the zoning allows, not what, and I can understand a boat storage it seems pretty innocuous for such a wetland site, but it's really the zoning. And I just don't think this is just so wet. This is just down in the marsh practically. And I just can't support it. And I recommend denial. I understand, and I just can't go with it.
Okay.
Okay, Commissioner Barcelona. Commissioner Fitzmaurice.
So there's already something on the site, right?
Yes.
On the front of the site?
It's actually an oyster plant being developed next door to me.
Right, I know about that.
Yeah.
And how much, do you plan on using the entire 5 acres or the front portion of the 5 acres?
It would be the front portion of the 5 acres, and then probably maybe to explain it better, staff helped me with the layout of it, and in order to accommodate a larger vessel that can come in or out of the launch, which we actually store those in Abita now, which are 50 feet, we would need the additional zoning in order to actually do that. Like we couldn't store outdoors a 50-foot powerboat without that.
Because of the zoning classification.
Correct.
And you said the ramp's actually on the property, or it's?
The ramp is 1,000 feet away, and St. Tammany just built a brand-new boat launch, which is a quarter of a mile away.
Right, yeah, I know, I'm kind of familiar with the area. Seeing no second, I make a motion to approve.
Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Fitzmaurice to approve. Commissioner Smale.
So is this the minimum zoning that they would need, planning, to put the business that they want to put on it? Okay.
I can just
HC3?
reiterate, per the HC2 regulations, it allows automotive repair and service facilities, but not to exceed 10,000 square feet. So if Mr. Strang needs bigger than 10,000 square feet in relation to his service facilities, the minimum would be HC3.
Thank you for that explanation. I'll second the motion to approve.
Commissioner Barcelona, did you?
Back that again.
Huh?
I was going to second it.
Okay, all right. So we have a motion and a second
Question.
to approve. Commissioner Crawford.
Just a quick question. I'm trying to figure out where this is exactly. So it's on Highway 90. It's out of Slidell?
It's out of Slidell. If you go to the East Pearl River, like you're going to Mississippi on Highway 90,
Okay.
I guess Jerry Bolte owns the property, and then it's the property right next to that. It's in between Mike Cure and Jerry Bolte's property, which is a launch right there with the East Pearl River Bridge. You go over 3 small bridges.
Right, okay.
It's right there.
Okay. And I mean, there's nothing out there, and I'm surprised there's a house across the street.
Yeah, he's a character.
He's a character.
Yeah.
And he's got a HC2 over there, it looks like.
That is
also.
actually also an oyster plant that unloads there.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, they unload on the Louisiana side.
Okay. Yeah, I'm familiar with where this is. Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Willie.
Yeah, just a comment, I guess. We come across these storage facilities time and time again about you can't do it unless you get to HC2 or HC3 because of size. And we concerned about zoning up here. Seems like we've got we have bars and storage facilities in the same zoning. Seems like we could separate some of that eventually into HCA and HCB or something, you know? Because we always run this problem. We got to step up the zoning in order to accommodate somebody requesting a zoning change. So that's just a comment. Thank you.
Okay. All right, Commissioner Smale.
A good comment, Commissioner Willie, and, you know, we're rewriting the Unified Development Code as we speak, so you can make that suggestion too.
Just did.
I might not pass it down tonight.
Thank you.
All right. Any further discussion by Commissioner Rest?
Yeah, you know, putting the boat thing in is just, I don't think any of us here have any issues
No,
with that. Okay, so you can see we're not really, that's where we're struggling with. You sell the property and somebody puts in a business, we're setting them up, putting them out here in this wetlands area, here in this high marsh, and so it's a zoning approval, and Commissioner Willie put it exactly right. It's hard to sit here and think about what you're asking for, but yet the zoning doesn't care. It matches for all those things, you know, and it just feels like, man, how do we have commercial out there for this kind of commercial? It just doesn't feel right, you know.
For marine use or for?
Well, for the marine use, seems like if you want to be near the water and you have boats, marine use makes sense. You
Sales tax, I mean,
Yeah,
you know,
it
produces quite a bit.
You know, Commissioner Fitzpatrick, he's a boat guy, so yeah, he thinks it's a good idea, you know, so. So anyway, but go ahead.
No, just remember, you know, they have to submit for, you know, plans and permits, and they have to be reviewed by engineering. It can, so maybe not every business there is appropriate.
Right.
Even though the zoning classification allows for such uses, but the layout of the land and the plans and permits that are required won't accommodate every business, even though they're allowed in that zoning classification.
Okay.
And that's it, you know, so just always, you know, kind of remember that. Hey, look, there's nothing wrong with a bar in the water, though. We'll probably make that one work.
Okay, I think I get your point. Thank you.
All right. Any further comments from the commissioners? We have a motion and a second on the floor. Please vote.
The motion to approve carries.
Thank you.
Have a good evening, sir. All right, we go to item 5, cases 2022-3061-ZC. Existing zoning is A1 Suburban District. Proposed zoning is A1 Suburban District and RO Rural Overlay. The location, parcel located on the east side of Wildwood Drive, south of Chafuncta Drive, being Lot 7A, Square 6, River Forest Country Club Subdivision, Covington, Ward 1, District 3. It's .516 acres. Petitioner is Stephanie Jenkins Little, and the owner is Stephanie Jenkins Little, Council District 3. Staff?
The .566 acre parcel is currently developed with a single-family residence located on Lot 7A of the River Forest Country Club subdivision established in 1961. The purpose of the requested rural overlay is to primarily allow for agricultural uses. Several of the uses listed under the RO rural overlay require the submission and approval of an administrative permit application to provide for a staff review of the required minimum standards. This includes short-term rentals recently added to the list of administrative permits under the rural overlay as per Council Ordinance Number 21-4593. The reason for the applicant's request is so that they may apply for a short-term rental permit. There is only one lot within the River Forest Country Club subdivision which is zoned with the rural overlay. Lot 8, Square 2, which is on the southern boundary of the subdivision, was rezoned to A1 Suburban District and RO Rural Overlay in 2014, which was before the regulations for short-term rentals were adopted.
Okay, thank you. Good evening, and you are?
I am Stephanie Jenkins.
And
Okay.
I have lived in Covington and the North Shore area all my life, as well as many generations of ancestors before me. I'm respectfully submitting to you to a zone change for a rural overlay to apply for a short-term rental permit for a room in my home. I'd like to offer a little background information on my house. In 2002, I acted alone as general contractor on the new construction of my 1,200 square foot home where I reside today and plan to stay. The land was woods whenever I purchased it, and through the years, I transformed it with my own hands into a beautiful oasis. 3 years ago, myself and my adult son self-contracted a 1,000 square foot addition to accommodate his growing family. Since then, he and his wife split and all 5 family members moved out. My hope now is to rent out the added master bedroom and bath to help offset my added living expense. This spacious master suite is situated at the opposite side of my house from my master bedroom where I sleep, and it has its own side entrance and parking area, making it ideal for this plan. I am aiming to do a short-term rental versus a long-term rental because of my personal experience. I am an insurance adjuster by trade, and while deployed to catastrophes around the country, I quickly learned that lodging options are scarce in devastated areas, and I had to seek alternative options. In 2012, Hurricane Sandy prompted years of trips for me to the Northeast, and that's when I was introduced to Airbnb. I found it to be safer and a practical option for a traveling woman staying weeks and months far from home. Considering this, I plan to offer incentives to traveling nurses and adjusters and folks in similar work scenarios. Short-term rental will give me the option to block out times I do not want to host, times I wish to entertain my grandkids, or offer my extra room to out-of-town relatives. Long-term rental will not allow me this flexibility. I notified my neighbors of my intentions on a Facebook neighborhood page, and I personally spoke with neighbors near me. I offered to answer any questions and discuss concerns, and none were brought to my attention. I would like to address any concerns I could think of if this was my neighbor's plan. Will there be extra traffic? No, it's only 1 bedroom for rent. 1 or 2 vehicles will not be an issue. And being I work from home, sometimes I do not leave my house for days on end. So my personal traffic impact is at an absolute bare minimum. Will there be stranger danger? I plan to use a platform that does background checks and ID verification. If I have any doubts about their process, I will also do my own background check. I plan to implement a 2 or 3 night minimum stay to avoid guests just traveling through. And also my podcast genre is true crime, so I am a guarded person and will be vigilant on the protection of all. Will we have a disturbance of peace? I live in the house and I like my peace. I will have strict rules in place for guests for quiet time during late hours and no parties to prevent any disturbance to myself or my neighbors. I will maintain it as a safe, quiet, peaceful place to stay. I respectfully ask you to consider passing this rural overlay for my short-term rental because this plan will not change the character of the existing residential home or the residential area it is in or affect the landscape or the sensitive ecological area in any way. There's no plans for any business sign out front, and there will be no new construction on my property. This plan is utilizing an existing residence that I reside and, as foreseen, will continue to live in for the rest of my life. I will continue to be a good steward to the home I have built from the ground up and that God has blessed me with, and rest assured I am considerate towards the sanctity of my neighbors and hometown in my thought process. Thank you, and I'll answer any questions anybody has.
Okay, we've got a couple more folks who'd like to speak. Ronald Wainwright. Good evening.
Good evening. How y'all doing? My name is Ronald Wainwright, and I respectfully ask you to consider passing the zoning overlay. I've known Stephanie for 35 years, and she's a hard worker and takes care of her people and her home. I know this addition she did for her family has become a strain on her, and this would help her out tremendously. Thank you.
Okay, Jessica Losh? Good evening.
Jessica Losh. I am Stephanie's next door neighbor. And so I just wanted to tell you. So I have no problem with her doing a short-term rental. She's been my neighbor for 5 years now, and she keeps her place very nice, very quiet, and has always been a respectful neighbor. So, and that's all.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone in the audience that wishes to speak against? Seeing no one, I'll close it to the public and bring it back to the commission. Commissioner Fitzwater.
This is definitely a different one. But as I understand it from legal, even if the property was sold, whoever purchased it would have to come back in and reapply for the short-term rental. So based on that, I'll make a motion to approve.
Motion by Commissioner Fitzmars to approve. Commissioner Truxillo.
I second.
Second by Commissioner Truxillo. Commissioner Smale.
So yes, this
Randolph, excuse me. I skipped over one.
That's okay. I knew you would get to me. Ms. Jenkins, will you come to the podium? I'm impressed with your history. And I have to be honest, you said your favorite show is what?
True crime.
True crime.
Yeah, podcast.
Well, mine is Law and Order, okay, and Criminal Minds. And honestly, I really applaud you for what you're trying to do, and also to do something to help really defer some of the costs that you're incurring. I'm just concerned about who's going to be in the same house with you. That's just my concern. For your safety, okay? And I'm pretty sure you've thought about that since you watched those type movies.
Yes.
But I just want to be on record that I support, but I'm concerned about your safety.
Well, I will have it set up where, I have a lock between myself and whoever's renting the room out.
Yeah.
And like I said, I will be using a platform that does background checks. And if I feel like they're not doing a good enough job, there are services out there that do that as well.
Hey, I would be remiss of who I am if I didn't openly say that, okay? But that's it. Thank you. Thank you.
Commissioner Smale.
Thank you, Commissioner Randolph. With those comments, glad you're so concerned. But this is a unique situation where she's going to control the people that rent because she actually lives in the house and plans to stay there. Has already told all of the neighbors through Facebook, and we've had a couple of them come and make comments that they support her doing this. There's not going to be any loud parties, so it's a unique situation. I support this. Has there been a motion out in a second? And very good. That's all I have. Actually, I do have a question. Did you say that the rural overlay would not stay with the property?
No, the rural overlay would stay with the property, but to use a short-term rental under a rural overlay, it's an administrative permit. So if someone else were to buy the property, they would not automatically have a short-term rental permit. They would have to apply to the Department of Planning and Development.
They wouldn't have to come for the
So
rural
they would
overlay.
still be allowed to apply without having to come back here, but they would have to get a separate permit, which would be reviewed by the Department of Planning and Development.
Thank you for that clarification. That's all I have, Chairman.
Okay, Commissioner Willie.
Yeah, just a couple questions of staff. It's A1, so right now that's an addition to the house, so they couldn't build an extra unit outside that unit, right? Since it's only a half acre?
That's correct.
Okay. And also, if she decides to move, this is approved, she can rent the whole house as an Airbnb, and then you'd lose the controlling factors, right? She could use the whole house as a rental.
If it's approved.
If it's approved.
Yes, correct, yeah.
Okay. Now, back to the administrative permit part. Once the rural overlay is there, then another person can apply for a rental, for Airbnb or whatever. Okay, but I'm worried about the whole house being sold at that point.
I mean, just to let you know, the permit is premised on a maximum allowable guest that's submitted in the permit application. So if that was limited in the approved permit, then she could not exceed that without coming and getting an amended permit from the Department of Planning and Development. She can't just change the parameters of the short-term rental allowance without getting approval by the department under the minimum standards set forth in our short-term rental ordinance.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Riss.
So I understand they have to come back and get a new permit, but how do you determine the restrictions on that permit? In other words, what criteria we use, whether they can have 10 people renting it or 3 or 1? I mean,
That's all set forth in the short-term rental ordinance with the minimum standards. It's in section 130, 2213, section 58, has a long list of all the criteria for short-term rentals.
Okay, so it is pretty well spelled out.
It's very well spelled out.
Okay, all right, thank you.
All right. I see no one else in the queue. We have a motion and a second to approve. Please vote.
The motion to approve carries.
Thank you. All right. We go to item 6, cases 2022-3068-ZC. Existing zoning is HC1 Highway Commercial District. Proposed zoning is HC2 Highway Commercial District. Location, parcel located on the north side of Louisiana Highway 22, east of Bell Point Drive, west of Perilou Road, Madisonville, Ward 1, District 1. It's 3.010 acres. The petitioner is Bo Bryant, and the owner is Highway 22, Perilou LLC, Bo Bryant, and it's in Council District 1. Staff?
This is a zoning change request from HC1 to HC2. If you turn to the second page of your staff report, you can see that many of the permitted use under HC1 are, all the permitted use under HC1 are allowed under HC2. And additional uses are also allowed under HC2. But basically, we also look at the building size. Under HC1, you have a maximum allowable building size of 20,000 square feet versus the HC2 that goes to 40,000 square feet. This is a 3-acre parcel of land, so there's also a possibility to have multiple 20,000 square foot building under the HC1 zoning district. We don't know exactly what the proposed use is, but I'm assuming that the request is to allow for a larger building size.
Okay. And you are?
Hi, my name is Allison Bondurant, and I represent Bo Bryant and Highway 22, the owner.
Okay.
This request for rezoning to HC2 is actually only to accommodate a pickup window for a pizza location. The proposed use and development by the owners is to develop a small 4-bay retail shopping center in front of Bell Point subdivision to accommodate a pizza takeout place with a pickup window. Another quick service restaurant is a proposed tenant, a small sit-down restaurant, and a urgent care. This is out on Highway 22 going towards the Tangipahoa Parish line. It is a sorely underserved area for these types of uses. The owner is proposing the change simply to accommodate the pickup window. It is the only thing that he needs to accommodate this particular use. Adjacent to this property is an HC3 to one side, and HC1 to the other side, which we understand also may have some sort of drive-up component coming. We're not exactly sure, but that's what we think. And then across the street is also HC1. The only area that is residential in this particular area is immediately behind this proposed development, and the owner has proposed plans that will be submitted that provide a 90-foot green space buffer between the furthest back part of its parking to the nearest property line. There's going to be numerous trees planted, as well as keeping of certain existing trees on the property to provide plenty of green space and protection. There's no use here that the neighboring landowners have had any concerns about. Mr. Bryant spoke with the HOA president for the neighborhood association next door. They were concerned about things like, bars or nightclubs and things like that. And when it was explained that it was things that would actually service their residents very well, he was happy with it, and we have received no objection to my knowledge of that to date. We have a letter of approval from the neighboring landowner who owns the property adjacent, and we have copies of the proposed drawings for the plan. If the commissioners would like to see them, we can pass those out, along with a front elevation and a site plan for the current plans for development. There's numerous copies here that are available for you all. The property has no wetlands on it. That's been a question of the night, so I thought I'd maybe prompt that. There's no wetlands, and it's flood zone X. It's services an area of great community. It's right next to Lancaster, across Pearly Road. So there's a lot of people that visit this area. I think it will do a great service for the community out there, living that direction and passing that way. I know people want to be able to pick up food on the way home, and it would be nice for them. So if you look at your site plans that are being passed out, I'm sorry if we don't have quite enough copies. If you turn the driveway with the words A1 at your bottom right-hand corner, you can see that it's very faint, but on this first site plan drawing, there's a number of trees that are the small red circles to the rear of the property, and then the parking is shown, and we have it marked out to show that there's 90 feet from that back property line, which is the neighboring neighborhood, to the actual parking area. The area of development is going to be approximately 9,500 square feet, or 8,500 square feet. And so I don't think there's too much else that I have to add. I'm obviously able to answer any questions. The other thing about this property is that it is deed restricted already. When it was purchased, some of the previous owners had deed restrictions. It cannot be a C-store. There can be no convenience stores here, so that's not able for it to be developed. And so the plans are to put these services that are sorely needed for these residents. I'll answer any questions you might have.
Not at the present time. We have a couple other people that would like to speak. Scott Davis. Are you for or against?
I'm against. Scott Davis. It's an honor to speak before you all tonight. I'm a resident of the adjoining subdivision, Bell Point subdivision, which I think is the one that she was referencing a moment ago. I've been there pretty much since the subdivision was established. This is not the first time this has happened. As I've lived there, it was my understanding, based on the first time this happened, somebody made this exact attempt years ago. I don't know if there was a piece of property, was this one, or if it was the one across the way. But there are two commercial properties at the front of the subdivision which have been there since the subdivision was established. They've never been developed. But it's my understanding, based on our initial meeting with this commission, I don't even know how many years ago it was many years ago, that there was a comprehensive rezoning done some time ago, right? And that as a result of that, the purpose was that the areas in St. Tammany Parish had changed, and they wanted to do a comprehensive rezoning to make sure that the areas that were zoned appropriately based on the changing nature of the subdivision, in particular the residential areas. And this is one of the areas that comprehensive rezoning changed. to what it is today, and they did that for a reason, which I guess based on studies, and I'm sure that the reason was because the area was becoming more residential, and in fact, that's exactly what's happened. In fact, since that study went into effect and since the zoning change happened, the area, and in fact, this last time this was attempted, it failed. It's my recollection that this commission decided not to vote in favor of it. And since that time, the area has become more residential. I think it's an oversimplification to say that there's one residential area. I guess it's not an oversimplification to say that it's one residential area immediately adjacent, but the whole area is residential. Parallel has become, which is right there, it's all houses. If you drive through it, there's our subdivision, there's another subdivision right across the street, Coquille. There's another subdivision they just cut not far away, like maybe 20 yards down the road, 30 yards down the road. There's another subdivision that they're developing. Subdivisions have popped up all over the places. They have all over western St. Tammany Parish. Furthermore, Lancaster School is there. I don't want to say my opponent, but the people who are in favor of it have tried to make that sound like this would be great for Lancaster. All these people, school, we can service them. I would submit to you this would not be great for the people there in Lancaster School, and not because of necessarily what they have planned. As one of the commissioners pointed out earlier, it's not what they have planned, it's what could happen down the road. Concerned about what the zoning change would do. Once it's done, it's done. They could have the best intentions right now, and they could, and I'm sure they do, have no desire to do anything untoward or to disturb things. But, you know, all these things are subject to leases, and leases change, and ownership changes. And once it's done, it's done. The idea that there's going to be a buffer doesn't change the idea that there could be increased traffic. It's just, you know, all this was done initially for a good reason. The only thing that's changed since this zoning was changed was the area has become more residential. The zoning change back when it was done was prophetic. It was correct. It correctly predicted what was going to happen in this area. And to that extent, it's only gotten better, and I mean better in the sense of residential. I oppose this change in the strongest possible terms, and I hope that this commission votes against it. I'll take any questions.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you.
David Wyndham?
Thank you. My name's David Wyndham. I live at 121 Parallel Road.
Are you for or against?
I'm opposed to it with stipulations. And this is my problem. I live directly behind the property. The property wraps around two sides of my property. I live on Parallel Road. Parallel Road is 16 feet wide. My garage door in my house is 16.5 feet wide. As she said, the school is directly across the street from my driveway. They meet. When the school buses pull out, I took pictures, but I didn't bring a device to show it. When a truck passes a school bus, the school bus is literally off the blacktop road, just inches from the ditch, because there is no shoulder on Parallel, and that happens regularly. So to put a drive-through coming from a commercial property on a Parallel road, to me, will be a disservice to everybody in the area. It's going to create additional traffic problems that already exist. And when you come out of a driveway on a 16-foot road, it is impossible to turn into that lane of travel without going into the oncoming lane of travel. It doesn't happen. And my mailbox is mounted on a 2x4, as is most of the mailboxes on Parallel Road, to where when they get knocked down, you can nail them back up and continue. One neighbor's got his mounted in a flower pot to where it can knock it over, put it back on the road. So to put commercial traffic onto a substandard road that does not even have a yellow line down the middle of it, to me, is just creating another problem. And then we're going to be back at the parish, okay, how do we fix a problem that we created? And I think we have an opportunity now to prevent from creating another problem. I am not opposed to the development at all. They bought the property. I feel like they're entitled to do anything they want to with it. But I think that they should keep the access to that property on Highway 22, which is a state-owned road. They can expand it. They can put turning lanes. they can do all those things to accommodate the extra traffic that's going to be created. Parallel Road does not have the option of creating turning lanes unless the parish is going to go in and put culverts in all the ditches and overlay them, which I doubt seriously that's in the budget to do. I do have pictures, the same pictures that you're going to see that she passed out showing where they're proposing the entrance to this property being put. I walked it off the other day. It's roughly 80 feet from the entrance to Lancaster Middle School. So with that being said, if they sell alcohol and stuff, then you're going to have alcohol sales within a few feet of Lancaster Middle School. And that's pretty much the bulk of what I have to say. The only other thing I'd like to add to it too, with their proposed entrance off of Parallel, another thing that I would be concerned about is that road is going to be going parallel to my property behind these businesses that are going to be there. So I would automatically assume that we're going to have delivery trucks turning in on Parallel to access the back of these businesses, which again, you don't have room for two buses hardly to pass. One bus has got to stop and let the other one go by. And to add additional commercial traffic to it, I think would be a grave injustice.
Okay,
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, you're speaking against?
I'm against.
My
name's Tony.
I need a card from you.
I turned one in earlier, sir. Tony Jambone.
Okay, go ahead.
Yes, sir. Yeah, I'm a Bell Point resident, and I'm also on the board for the HOA. I'm actually the president. You spoke to Steve, I believe. That's how I got some information from. So anyway, been living there over 10 years, and I'm gonna hit on some points that this gentleman here hit on. We all know, I think everybody in this room here, there's traffic problems on 22 in that corridor. I know it's a commercial zone. You can look at the map and see how it's been set up. Scott alluded to the zone change request. That's what I'm basically against. Not necessarily a place of business to develop there, which I know that it's going to happen, but to go to AC2, which has the drive-through, is one reason why they're going for it. The traffic problem with the access on Parallel is going to be a problem. And the reason why I think they developed it that way, not off of 22, because it's so close to the intersection, they got a gore in there. Now you can't turn in there. Not supposed to turn that way coming from the east. So there's a traffic issue. I know they're going to develop that. I think it's on the books for 2 or 3 years before it's even in. There's a bit of roundabout, from what I understand, at Parallel. So I understand the developments occurring, but I don't know if it's time right now to put all that extra stress on that corridor at this time with that type of business on that corner. And that basically is the zone change. Because you got other options, which also was hit early on another case, about there's other opportunities later on, although the intent is good what they want to do, but it could turn into something else with alcohol and stuff like that on that corner. And I think this AC1 doesn't allow that. So there's certain stipulations, AC1, which would be, I think would be good for the community, but not AC2, which has other options down the line if somebody else wants to take control of and introduce another business that's not conducive to that area. And that's all I have to say.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else wish to speak against? Against, yes. Now, you've already spoken one time. You've only got 53 seconds. So.
Okay. Does anybody else want to speak against? No? Okay. Yeah, I just want to emphasize what Tony and this gentleman said, you know, to be more specific about the concern. It's not about what's today or what they're planning. It's about what could happen. I am concerned about sales of alcohol, and I think this commission should be concerned about that, not only because of our subdivision, but also because of the school nearby. You know, to say that this would be a good thing to service the area, I would say that it's already zoned appropriately for that, and that anything else would be unnecessary and potentially harmful down the line. I'm, again, particularly concerned about the idea of convenience store, liquor sales. You know, even if there are protections now, those things can always be lifted. I mean, here we are. You know, it's surprising that that we're here twice.
Thank you. All right, we'll go to rebuttal.
Thank you all for your consideration. To specifically address the concerns that were raised by our neighboring landowners, With regard to the traffic, there was raised that there is an expansion of that area, a roundabout that's going to be put in at Pearlie Road and Highway 22 that will alleviate traffic concerns that are largely caused by the vast amount of traffic that comes from the neighboring area and the school. This is a retail shopping center, but it does have access directly to 22. The concern about safety and traffic in that area, it will be a right turn in, right turn out, almost certainly by DOTD. We've applied for a request. There's going to be an application for a request for that. And the access for Pearlie Road, as you can see on the plans that were given to you, is pulled way back from the intersection to avoid any kind of snafu with that intersection right up at Pearlie Road. There is, though, however, for the gentleman who does live adjacent to the property, an 80-foot buffer that is going to contain a number of trees, as you can see on the plans, to provide him the privacy and the noise buffer. And any development on that portion of the property, actually at the corner, is not, the property is not currently being developed. Obviously, it is being zoned, but it will separately be developed. Notably, the parcels have been separated into two actual separate tracts, a couple of acres for one and a couple of acres for the other, because they will be developed separately. So the idea that it will be one large parcel with one large 40,000 square foot development is not the intended use or the way that it is currently developed and currently set out to be developed, because it's two separate tracts. Again, we understand the concern that the uses do expand. You know, the commissioners have raised the fact that certain classifications include uses that may not actually accommodate what would be such a great benefit to the community. A pickup window for a pizza place is not a full-blown, drive-through liquor store or a, Chick-fil-A. We understand that concern, but this property is deed restricted. As mentioned before, there is a deed restriction for freestanding liquor, so there couldn't be a freestanding liquor store on this property. It's already been, I think when the property was sold for the development of the neighborhood, that was part of the restrictions. There are things that are being addressed in that regard because there are deed restrictions. In addition to that, the driveways have been set up in order to accommodate that traffic. Again, we understand the concerns about the overall scope of the HC2 classification, but notably HC3 is next door, HC2 is across the street, HC1 is on the other side. So this is not inconsistent with the overall development plan for the parish. It does not, because of the size of these tracts, it also, you have to remember that, again, not every use that's allowed in the zoning classification could be developed here because of the size of these tracts. If this was a giant tract, maybe you'd have a different story, but to accommodate the parking and everything that would be necessary for certain types of businesses, you want to look at that as well, that this isn't like some massive development that's going in. It is very concerning for these neighbors, obviously, but again, it's the intended use and the way that this property has been developed does accommodate and guard against those concerns. So I'm happy to answer any questions that might come up.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, those of you that are against, you're in a rebuttal phase now. You got 5 minutes.
I would just like to say one thing quickly. I understand that the roundabout is proposed to be put in at Pearlie and Highway 22, but I doubt seriously the state's going to expand the width of Pearlie Road at that time. It's still a 16-foot road between two ditches on both sides. There is no room for expansion. And by putting that entrance going into the back of it, I'm quite certain those businesses would probably be stocked from the back of it with delivery trucks. And again, you've got school buses, and I've got pictures of the school buses, with the wheels literally off the blacktop, just hovering right there on the ditch. So if you start putting delivery trucks and commercial traffic on that road, cars are in ditches regularly. Just last week, I had the concrete driveway fixed again from cars running off, hitting my driveway. And that's not exaggerating. You can ride down there and look at the brand new concrete. So it's going to be a problem, and putting this in is not going to alleviate any problem on Pearlie Road. We're a rural community. I grew up in that area. I can remember the cattle guards on that road when it was gravel. That is the same road that we had 65, 70 years ago. I'm 55. I've got relatives that live on that road, and I grew up in Madisonville. So the rural roads that we have are not designed for modern day traffic. And the problems that we're creating on it. And I propose that we keep the traffic and the access to this property coming off of Highway 22, which is a commercial corridor. Parallel Road is not. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else wish to speak?
Thank you. Just real quick. In rebuttal, I would just say that I heard a lot of words like intended use and, what we're planning and, the pizza takeout's not going to be a problem. And even if all that is true, it still doesn't address the real concern, which is that this is going to open up the zoning to a lot of different uses. And if the reliance on parking is the best argument they have for restricting it, I would submit to you that that's not good enough. In addition, the idea that, that Lancaster being so close is something that this commission really needs to consider, whether they want to approve zoning change like this in a school like that, a middle school right there. I would submit to you that that would be a huge mistake. That's all I have. Thank you.
To the same point, and she brought up about other zones in that general area, or 2 and 3 as it is. So if anyone wants to develop a company that's going to have to require that zoning, it already exists in the same general area already that we can't do anything about. But this is specific to this location as AC1. So if there's a development that wants to occur on a zone increase like they are asking for, there's other options there for that type of business.
Okay, thank you. All right, we've had rebuttal on both sides. I don't see anyone else wishing to speak, so I'm going to close it to the public and bring it back to the commission. Commissioner Fitzpatrick.
Yes, ma'am. Can you come up? So I live in the area. My daughter went to Lancaster. I know it well. Peru is a very small, tight road, no doubt about that. One thing to address with the audience, so you can't have liquor sales within 500 feet of a school. That's an ordinance in St. Tammany Parish, so that alleviates some of that concern, I think. Well, not I think, I know. Has it been looked at to possibly have the ingress and egress off of 22 and not use Perilou? I know you're not the designer.
I could, our owner is here, and I believe that there was some looking in at that, but because of the likelihood of a right turn in, right turn out only restriction on Highway 22, that is what necessitates the use of Perilou Road to be able to allow for left turn access to the property.
Right, to put you too close to Perilou, stopping traffic,
Correct.
stack on 22.
To stack on 22, correct. And with the roundabout coming, that's going to alleviate some of that traffic. We understand the width of the road is an issue, but it's existing uses. This is not, again, one of those situations with the high level of commercial use.
Yeah, that's kind of where
purpose.
It's the devil that you know and the one that you don't know. So
That's exactly right.
I think your plan, other than the Perilou entrance, is good, and you've taken things into account that others might not. If you sold the land or somebody wanted to build under HC1, that's kind of where I'm stuck. I think your plan is pretty solid. Considering the neighbors, it already is HC1, but I don't know. I'll hear what the other commissioners have to say, but it's just, I'm leaning to the devil. I know the one I don't know. But anyway, I'll hear what the others have to say.
Mr. Truxillo.
Yes, ma'am. So the only reason you want to go to HC2 is for the drive-through for the pizza.
A pizza pickup window, correct, which is different than just like a regular drive-through for like any other kind of
well, like Popeyes and everything else. It's basically the same thing, correct?
Well, no, a pizza pickup window, I don't know if you've ever been through one, but...
No, ma'am, I haven't.
Okay, well, they're relatively, pizza's a slow process, so, it takes about 20 minutes to cook. So the pickup happens after a pre-order.
Mm-hmm.
So there's the amount of stacking that you would have at a pizza pickup window is just relatively less than you would have I've been through a pizza pickup window. There's one right by my house. And that pizza pickup doesn't stack because people don't sit and wait and order at the window and then wait for their food.
No, I understand that.
So that's the difference there. Now, I'm not saying that the allowance for a pickup window in HC3 is limited to that. Obviously, a pickup window could be any kind of pickup window, but that's what this particular pickup window proposal is.
Have you considered just walking it out to them?
Yeah, it's a proposed tenant, so that's not what the tenant
Okay.
would like.
Just a question, I'm sorry, you know?
The proposed tenant wants the pickup window. So,
Huh?
yeah,
No, I don't need an
if you
extra
know
job.
somebody, I mean, we can always try.
I don't need an extra job. I'm going to mimic what my commissioner to my left keeps on saying, if you, commercial on highway, if we can't do commercial on highway, where are we going to put the commercial? And we also, we build residential communities off the highway also, which, you damn if you do, if you damn if you don't on either side. I think your plan is very well thought of, and I think it's a good fit for that area. So by saying that, I'm going to make a motion to approve.
We have a motion by Commissioner Truxillo to approve. Commissioner Barcelona.
I have a question for staff regarding a traffic impact analysis. Is that something that's would be required eventually for this?
Yes, if there's a drive-through, traffic impact analysis will be required.
So there will be a traffic impact analysis for the access along Parallel, right? So is that
If there's a drive-through.
okay? So anything that needs to be mitigated, then that's going to be the developer's responsibility. All right, with that,
Depending on what the study states.
if anything needs to be, if there is an impact and it needs to be mitigated,
That's correct.
then that would be their responsibility. With that, I'll go ahead and second the motion.
Okay. Got a second by Commissioner Barcelona to second the motion. Commissioner Smale.
So this property is literally in this gentleman's backyard. I mean, his house juts into this property. You could have a pizza place with no pickup window. You could very simply park, get out of your truck, and go get the pizza and go back in your truck pretty easily. I don't like the exit on Parallel. I don't like the fact that the homeowners association is against it. The gentleman that lives right behind the property is against it. It seems like the community does not want this, and does not sound like there's room on Parallel for the extra traffic. And I would have made a motion to deny, but there's already a motion and a second to approve.
Okay. Commissioner Willie.
Question of staff. The HC1 use, would they have the right to use Parallel Road as an ingress egress?
Yeah, the zoning district does not determine where the access is.
I mean, do the plans have to be approved, or they can be denied based on that ingress egress?
Well, the state will determine
I'm
if
talking
they
about
will.
on Parallel.
Oh, on Parallel, they will have to submit their plan, and then engineering will determine how far it has to be away from 22.
So HC1 business, if they get approved to use Highway 22, they can almost automatically use Parallel under our rules.
Well, HC1 or HC2.
So they'd be able to use it anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner McInnes.
You mentioned another restaurant there or fast food?
Yeah, it's a walk-in fast casual type takeout place where you walk in, there's a counter, you pick up your food. There may be a couple of tables, but it's a fast, quick service type place.
And those people may be using the Parallel Road entrance as well.
Possibly, but again, that particular bay would not have the pickup window, which is the only distinction between the two. So whether, again, under HC1 or HC2, that Parallel entrance road could be applied for, again, would have to go through the full-blown process for planning, and the traffic study would be required as may be needed for Highway 22. So yes, they could use that Parallel Road entrance, but they could also use the 22 entrance.
And what about Bell Point Drive? Is there
There is no driveway onto Bell Point from this property, not proposed at this time. It is, I'm pulling my plans up, it is not set for an entrance there.
Is that a similar size road, do you know?
I'm not exactly, it's smaller than Perilou, if that's the question. I mean, Perilou is smaller than it, pardon me, if that was your question. It's wider than 16 feet because it services the whole neighborhood.
And is there any way you could maybe rethink it and use Bell Point as your access rather than?
I think the homeowners would probably object worse to that. It's a subdivision entrance.
Oh, okay.
So it's not just a regular road, it's actually their subdivision entrance.
okay.
So I don't think anyone would want that as well. I mean, I understand that there's different neighbors with differing points of view about whose driveway is closer to whose, but it has one of those medians in it with the landscaping and all that, so I don't know that that would necessarily be appropriate.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Smale.
I still think that you know, this was zone HC1 for a reason at some point. And a lot of it is because it's just too close. It's like encompasses the neighborhood. The road is too skinny for this exit. HC2 allows for too many other uses that we're not even considering tonight. I understand that that's not on the table right now, but making it HC2 would allow for too many other undesirable uses. I just don't like this idea, and neither do the residents in the neighborhood. Thank you.
Commissioner Willis.
Yeah, I'm back on that Perilou road again. So if it stays HC1 and they take out the drive-through window and do like Mr. Truxell said, they walk in and pick up the pizza, they can still put the road in on Perilou, right?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve this, and there's no one else in the queue. Please vote.
The motion to approve fails.
Okay. All right, the motion to approve fails, so if you want to appeal it to the council, you certainly can. There are appeals cards over on the railing to the right.
Yeah.
This is case number 2022-3069ZC, existing zoning A1 Suburban District, proposed zoning A3 Suburban District. Locations, parcel located on the east side of Cypress Drive, south of Lee Settlement Road, Folsom, Ward 2, District 3, 5 acres. Petitioner is Elaine Corey. Am I saying that properly? Did I really get it right? Yes. I'm over here, but I can't believe I got it right. That's good. Council District 3. Staff?
The subject property abuts A1 Suburban District zone properties on all sides with either undeveloped lots or large properties that contain 1 to 2 single-family homes. The site's current A1 Suburban District zoning calls for 5-acre parcel sizes with a density requirement of 1 unit per every 5 acres. The requested A3 Suburban District classification allows for a minimum of half-acre parcel sizes and a density requirement of 2 units per every 1 acre. If approved, the applicant can apply to obtain building permits to place 2 units per acre on the subject property. In addition, the applicant can also apply for a minor subdivision to create a variety of parcel configurations with minimum lot sizes of a half acre or greater.
Thank you.
Good evening.
Okay, you want to tell us what you're doing?
Yes, sir. My name is Elaine Correa. I live in Folsom, currently with my husband and my children. We bought this property hoping that my in-laws
would move in it. It currently has a mobile home on it. It's a very narrow property, but it's 5 acres. The front of the property is the land that we're considering into dividing it into 1 acre to build a home for my in-laws on it. And then the other acre, hopefully in the future, if my sister-in-law ever decides to move down to Folsom, then that's an option for her as well. The part of the land that's all the way further, it's marshland, and there is a right-of-way for the electricity pole to come in it. So we are asking to rezone it to an A3. However, it's going to be larger parcels than a half an acre each. Based on the size of the property, we were trying to figure it out, but we did not want to spend the extra money to go get a survey out to see how much each parcel will be. We're thinking it might be one parcel is probably going to be exactly an acre. The other parcel might be a little less than an acre, but our recommendations based, back and forth with talking to councilwomen and to the staff, they said to go ahead and try to do an A3, and once we get the survey out, then we could go ahead and see exactly how much the sizes are.
I'm going to pass it back to the chairman, but this is case number 7 on your agenda.
Okay.
That was Mrs. Corey explaining what she wants to do.
All right.
Anyone else want to speak in favor? We have several against, so we'll let them come up and speak. You can return to your seat, and we'll call you back
Yes,
for
sir.
rebuttal.
Okay. All right, the first one I've got is Kenneth Neal.
Good evening, everyone. I live at the back of Cypress Drive. I have 5 acres, me and my wife. We've had flooding issues. The parish came in actually with the property that this lady has and put in a speed bump to keep their driveway from washing away. The speed bump caused our driveway to wash away thousands of dollars of rocks. The property that is behind them, which is farmland, that's been farmland for many years, will also be flooded if this land development goes through and they build the land up. It's going to put more pressure and more water to my property, killing my property value and my acreage. Same goes with the farmland. The man that helped clear my land for the flooding, he just cleared 6 acres almost. And it's going to flood all that land. He just put thousands of dollars into it. So I ask that y'all oppose to do this.
Okay.
Appreciate it.
Thank you. I've got a card here that nobody put their name on. They live at 11259 Lee Settlement Road. Okay. Louise Jenkins.
Good evening. I live at 84150 Neal Cemetery Road. I wasn't expecting to speak. I had marked that no, but since you had, he called me anyway. But well, I've wanted to let you know that I've bought property along with my husband there 3 years ago. We came to Folsom because of the 5-acre restriction per single home. That's what drew us here. Entertaining this idea of rezoning is not in the best interest for me or my neighbors. We have a very quiet life. We moved to the rural area for a rural area. It would also decrease my property value. Their neighborhood is very close-knit. We know many people in the less than 3 years that we've been there, and we're very comfortable as family. I've read briefly that the vision for 2040, that is not met with this proposed rezoning. So that's what I have to say. Thank
Okay.
you.
Thank you. Sam Jenkins.
Yes, sir. I don't think it's a great idea out there. Like I said, it is a rural area, and we all pretty much, I guess, are newcomers there. We've bought property knowing these facts about what the property is and the restrictions on it for a reason. And I think that if we leave this, change this ordinance in that, it's going to make restrictions. There's going to be more people wanting to try to get to do the same thing, and we're not going to have anything left out there. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Melissa Knockan?
Yes, I've been there 35 years.
You're for or against?
I am against it.
Okay.
And that restriction was put on for that 5 acres, and it needs to stay. That branch that runs through her property is an issue on lease settlement on both ends. It runs across Highway 40. It floods. I've seen Parish put in culverts that has washed up with that branch. She does not need to fill it in. It needs to stay with one home on that. It's very narrow. I don't even know how she would even think that that could even go through there. That branch runs through that property. And we have been trying to get the parish to go through there and try to clean it up. It's already backed up with, when it rains. It runs through the back part of that property. I just don't think it needs to be done.
Okay, thank you. All right, anyone else wish to speak against?
Speaking on the Savannah Branch part of it, it runs through my property also. When you go down Lee Settlement Road and you get to the volunteer fire department, right there, there's a branch there. When it rains, it floods. And like y'all know, right on Lee Settlement Road, if the drainage gets backed up, it floods us even more. It will kill us. It will be in our doorstep. We can't drive. I wish I had the video to put up on the TV for y'all. My kids can't walk down our driveway when it rains. We have a long driveway. It's gonna be a problem if they build this property up, period. The lady that was there before, wonderful lady, she asked the parish to put a speed bump in for her driveway. That's great, but it killed me in the long run. It cost me a lot of money, and thank God that we have a tight-knit community, that my neighbor owns a bulldozer, and he cleared some property for me for drainage issues. So if y'all do allow this, it's gonna cause me to lose property and the man behind me to lose property. Period. End of discussion. It is bad. And we can't get the parish to clean up the road or the ditches. So we have a drainage issue on Lee Settlement Road, period. So I would like y'all to not consider this situation on the half-acre properties, period.
Okay, thank you. All right, we need to go to rebuttal.
I would like to.
Yes, you're Ms. Corey, I believe?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. First of all, our property does not sit on Lee Settlement Road. It's on Cypress Road. So Lee Settlement is completely, I would say, maybe a quarter of a mile down from where our property sits. Now, I do have a map of how the flood zone is attached to our property. My understanding is that lady that he's talking about that we purchased the property from, she's never experienced any floods in her properties. They did put the driveway, like he mentioned. I'm not sure when that happened, but we have never, when we asked her about the property, she said her mobile home is situated right in the middle of the narrow property, and it is narrow. However, there is plenty enough space right behind it and right in front of it where we're thinking of building, which is the top section. That area is flat. There's no need to raise it up. And like I said, it's not going to be half an acre. It might be an acre to 0.75 of an acre on that property. A gentleman right across from us, he just sold an acre property to another gentleman where he built an actual nice home all of our area is surrounded by mobile homes. We are not planning on building a mobile home. We are planning on building an actual house, about 1,400 square foot. So that would make the property value increase, not decrease, based on the information that we've had, and I spoke with the councilwoman. She urgently disagreed about putting mobile homes on there in St. Tammany, which I agree. You know, mobile homes are mobile homes, but we own a mobile home, and I'm thankful for that. It's been a blessing for me and my family. However, based on, again, the communication that I've had with the councilwoman, based on the information that I had with the staff, they're trying to emit mobile homes in St. Tammany Parish, and we've agreed that we will not put a mobile home on there. So, and like I said, I've had this, I wish I could bring this to you. I'm not sure if you have it on your screen to see it, where he's talking about his property. His property sits way back from us, and there is a long driveway, like he said. The lady there right now, we've experienced massive rains, and she's never complained anything about any flooding over there. The problem is lease settlement and not Cypress.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Yes, ma'am.
You have to go down lease settlement to get to her. That branch runs over lease settlement and runs on the back side of her property. Goes on the other end of lease settlement and hits 40. Yes, we do flood from there. That field next to her has that branch running across there, and it goes to your property.
Yes, that's correct, but it doesn't flood.
It doesn't flood. But we have flooding on lease settlement, same branch. So how do you figure that?
Okay, thank you. All right, anyone else wish to speak against and rebuttal? All right, I'm going to close it to the public and bring it back to the commission. Commissioner Willie.
I know flooding's important and everything, but in this case, it's not so much. I'm looking at this property, it's totally surrounded by A1 zoning, and A3 would be out of character. I mean, it's a rural area, it needs to stay rural, and if you change the zoning, it's pretty much a case of spot zoning. So I'm going to move for denial.
Motion by Commissioner Willie to deny. Commissioner Crawford.
I concur with Commissioner Willie, and I'll second that motion.
Okay, we got a motion and a second to deny. Any further discussion? Please vote.
The motion to deny carries.
Ma'am, you can appeal this to the council. All right, we'll go to item 9, case number 2022-3073-ZC, existing zonings HC1 Highway Commercial District, proposed zoning is HC2 Highway Commercial District. Location, parcel located on the north side of Louisiana Highway 22, west of Catham Drive, Madisonville. Ward 1, District 1, it's .69 acres. The petitioner is Efren Bermudez, and the owner is Yeri Buildings LLC, Efren Bermudez. Council District 1, staff.
The subject property is currently undeveloped and abuts a residential neighborhood to the north, an undeveloped commercially zoned parcel to the south, and commercially zoned parcels to the east and west. The purpose of the requested HC2 Highway Commercial District is to provide for the location of moderately scaled, intense retail, office, and service uses. Staff would note that if rezoned to a commercial zoning classification, this property must comply with commercial regulations including parking, landscaping, and drainage, among others. Based on the typical rezoning pattern for the property situated along Highway 22, west of Highway 1085 and east of the Parish line, there seems to be a majority of parcels that were either rezoned to accommodate commercial uses during the 2009 comprehensive rezoning or rezoned via submission of an application to the Zoning Commission and Parish Council. Based on current zoning patterns and associated zoning maps, this section of Highway 22 appears to be trending towards commercial zoning classifications, which allow for commercial uses, although the rezoning application did not state the reason for the request, and all uses for the HC2 highway commercial zoning are on your staff report.
Thank you. Yes, sir, and you are?
I'm from Bermudas.
Okay.
Good evening, council. And we are as well asking for rezoning from AC1 to AC2 for this simple reason, as well as to add a drive-through window for the establishment that we're trying to do there. I own in Pawtucket in Madisonville, and having gone through COVID and everything, you know, as people going through wanting to have the contactless service and stuff like that, we learned from that and wanted to see about doing a different aspect, a different restaurant, if you will, in the community. And we're trying to see about reclassifying that from an AC1 to AC2 for the simple reason of having a drive-through.
Okay, thank you. I've got a bunch of cards here that are for, but they're not saying if they want to speak, so we'll start off. Bermudez? No speak? Okay. Gustavo Guerrero?
Gustavo.
None of these folks want to speak. Karen Rodriguez? No. Gloria Guerrero?
You don't have to speak, we just need to know if you're for or against.
Okay, Corman Paloma? And Arcadia Bernali? Okay, all right. We're back to square one here.
We don't have it.
If there's any speakers against, why don't you come on and
Could be lost in the show.
Please state your name and address.
Good evening. My name is Brittany Robert. I actually live in Abita, 73644 Fairway Drive. I am here this evening on behalf of my in-laws, Gerald and Dee Robert, who live at 1944 Highway 22 West, the property adjacent to this one. I'm here to speak for them. They're not public speakers. I am. I'm comfortable. So they've lived at this property for 40 years. They've owned it for over 40 years. In that time, they raised 2 sons. I'm married to one of them. They are the most kind, loving, and helpful grandparents I could have ever hoped for. My kids know them as Grammy and Pawpaw, and their home has been a sanctuary for our family throughout the years. I'm going to echo some of the sentiments that other folks who showed up tonight with drive-thrus have opposed for the same reasons. We are not inherently against this wonderful family who has been nothing but kind and respectful to my in-laws during the process of clearing the property and getting things ready. We're just against the future of what the property could be. I'm grateful that my in-laws bought the lot when they did. They have watched Madisonville grow along with their kids. In 2009, that property, though, was rezoned to HC1 commercial during the comprehensive rezoning plan. Unfortunately, my in-laws did not know anything about zoning at that time. They didn't even realize their property was zoned commercial until 2 weeks ago when I showed up to pick my son from their house. And I saw the placard sitting on their table for the zoning change request. I do work for a local custom home builder, and I have spoken to a couple of people in planning and development several times, so I am familiar with the zoning regulations and the ordinances. So I knew exactly what that zoning request meant. And then the questions that I had about the things I didn't know, I reached out to my friends at planning who were always incredibly helpful. We have already spoken with the business owner, and we wish nothing but the best for him. But unfortunately, businesses aren't forever, but zoning changes are. So who's to say if their drive-through restaurant fails that something else won't move next door? I hope that it takes off, and I hope he does wonderful, and I hope that he has to move to an even bigger space. But if he's rezoned and that happens, then any of the other businesses that were discussed earlier this evening could also potentially be located right on top of my in-laws' home. Now, this is not a 3-acre property. This is a property that is 100 by 300. So the likelihood that something large and incredibly disruptive could move on to that property, yes, that is unlikely. However, there are a myriad of businesses under HC2 zoning that could move onto that property, that could keep them awake at night, that could shine lights onto the property, there could be noise. And because their property is zoned commercial, unfortunately, unbeknownst to them, whoever moves onto that lot doesn't have to comply with the residential uses, like putting up a fence. So, yes, New Directions 2040 does call for a traffic circle and additional lanes as established earlier this evening. It does take into account the rapidly changing corridor in that area. Number 6 on the staff analysis report of tonight's meeting packet for tonight's cases states, as I will repeat, based on the current zoning patterns and the associated zoning maps, this section of Highway 22 appears to be trending towards commercial zoning classifications, which do allow for commercial uses. But what the comprehensive rezoning in 2009 and New Directions 2040 fail to address are the families in these areas who are going to be left with lifelong residences that they have lived in commercial districts. It does not take into account the blood, sweat, and tears that my father-in-law spent years building this home on this property with his own 2 hands. He and my mother-in-law walked into Pool Lumber Company with the plans, and he literally built this home himself. Again, they raised families there, made memories on this property, and they expected, when it was all said and done, that they would leave a legacy and a home they could be proud of behind to their sons and their grandchildren. Instead, they're going to leave a piece of land where the dirt that the home sat on is worth more than the home that they built and the memories they made with those kids. I understand that St. Tammany is rapidly developing, and yes, it does make sense for this area to be zoned HC1. However, I feel it's a detriment to the area to rezone this particular property HC2 just for the purposes of having a drive-through. Sounds to me like what you guys need is a conditional use permit for commercial properties. And that's what we would have requested tonight if it were still possible. And we do only wish the best for this business owner and his family, and we want them to have every dream come true that they want. But there's no other way for it to be rezoned, for them to get the drive-through without rezoning to HC2. So we respectfully and strongly request that the zoning change is denied. Thank you.
Okay. Would you fill out another card?
Yes, gladly.
All right. We've had rebuttal on both sides? No, okay. And you folks still want to speak? Okay.
I'm just going to say that, also, thank you very much. Just, we want to be good neighbors. We don't, but I feel that we're also stuck like the boat guy, we got to fix something with the zoning here to where we're not stuck in a classification that, they're concerned about. They're not concerned about the drive-through, they're concerned about the classification, but yet the drive-through is an essence of what the business we're trying to do, otherwise we really can't do the business. So I think the council needs to do something about reclassifications.
Okay, thank you. Ma'am, do you have any further comment? Okay.
I would like to add something. My father-in-law made a good point. Apologize. The property is very narrow, and it's only 30 feet from their property line to the wall of their home. So this would literally be on top of them. They are, even though it is commercial, there has been a residence there for 40 years, so.
Okay, all right. Thank you. All right, I'm going to close it to the public and bring it back to the commission. Commissioner Fitzmaurice.
Yeah, here we go again. Can you come up to the podium, please? So I don't know if you heard me say earlier, I literally live across the street, just down the road. Truxillo's not far away either. This area and I've seen their home when I've driven past it. It is weird how it kind of happened that residents are there and they got rezoned, in a commercial fashion, but it is what it is. The property that have you purchased the property already? Yeah, so you bought a piece of commercially zoned property and you have an idea of what you want to do. My issue, different than the other one before, it is narrow. What kind of restaurant is it? Do you mind me asking?
It would be a grilled chicken.
What's that?
Grilled chicken.
Grilled chicken. And we're stuck, to your point, you want one thing out of one zoning classification and it doesn't take you to the next one. I do agree. I think it's too small, narrow to have a drive-through on that piece of property. And my other concern is, because of that, the drive-through, it's going to be more traffic than if you had a stationary restaurant where people would come in and dine and then leave, not all at one time, or just constant flow of traffic, especially considering what's right down the street from you in Habaneros. That has nothing to do with you, but that doesn't help that little area anyway. But yeah, I'm going to have to make a motion to deny, and I wish you the best. I hope you can make it work. Yep.
Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Fitzmaurice to deny. Commissioner Swale.
I see the problem as with the code. I mean, the HC2 allows a lot of other undesirable uses at this location. And so, as they're rewriting the Unified Development Code, maybe we need to suggest some type of conditional use for HC1. This is twice we've had this request for a drive up in an HC1, and they have to make it an HC2 where they could put a liquor store, or just way too many undesirable uses for HC2. The young lady did a great job of representing her in-laws, and I second the motion to deny.
Okay, we have a second on the motion to deny. Any further discussion? Please vote.
The motion to deny carries.
Thank you. All right. We're getting down to the end here. We go to item 10, case number ZC 13-08-063, major amendment to the River Chase RBCO Regional Business Center overlay. The location, parcel located on the east and west side of East Brewster Road, south of Interstate 12, Covington. Ward 1, District 1. It's 192.786 acres. Petitioner is Mark Salvetti. The owner is Merrimont Properties LLC. Council District 1. Staff?
The petitioner is really just requesting a major amendment to the existing regulations to the RBCO for clarification in order for staff to better review request for development. Staff has no objection.
Okay, thank you. Yes, sir.
Good evening, Mark Salvetti with Sterling Properties, 109 North Park Boulevard, Covington. I represent Marmont and the owners of River Chase in this petition. As Aaron said, a lot of these were really to correct grammatical errors and to further clarify, to allow staff to more easily work through some of the things that have been coming up over the last couple of years at River Chase. So, thank you.
All right, thank you. Does anyone in the audience wish to speak against? All right, we'll close it to the public and bring it back to the commission. Commissioner Fitzmaurice.
Based on no objection from staff, I move to approve.
Motion by Commissioner Fitzmaurice to approve. Commissioner Randolph.
A second.
Second by Commissioner Randolph. All right, we have no one else in the queue. Motion and a second to approve. Please vote.
The motion to approve carries.
Thank you. All right, we go to plan review. All right. This is case number 2022-3016-PR. The use is McDaniel Dermatology. It's new construction. The corridor is Highway 21 plan corridor. The zoning is NC1. The use size is 7,606 square feet. The petitioner is Jones Fussell. Jeff Shane. Owner is Ellison Holdings LLC. Parcel located on the east side of Louisiana Highway 21, south of Dummy Line Road, Madisonville, Ward 1, District 1. This was postponed from the October 4th meeting. Staff?
Since this was last before you, the applicant has submitted revised plans which address the requirements for grading and drainage plan. It's been reviewed and approved by the Department of Engineering. They've also submitted a tree survey and landscape plan, which has been revised to be consistent and meet regulations. They are requesting 2 waivers to the PCO regulations. The first is in relation to the 100-foot required front yard setback. The building is encroaching by roughly 33 feet, so they'll need a waiver in order to place the building in the proposed location. The second waiver requested is due to the proposed location of the building and parking lot encroaching within the required 20-foot setback. Since this is last before you, the applicant submitted a letter stamped by a licensed professional engineer justifying that the proposed foundation structural integrity will not be compromised due to its vicinity to the existing drainage feature. Because of receiving this letter, the Department of Engineering has noted no objection.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Shane.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, Honorable Commission. Jeff Shane of the Jones Fussell firm, representing Ellison Holdings LLC, which is the owner and petitioner in this case. As you may remember, in September, this case was presented to you as a change of zone from NC1 to NC4. Unanimously made that recommendation. That matter has now gone on to the council without appeal and will be adopted Thursday evening. We were not in a position to go forward with the plan review in September or October because staff had comments, concerns about various studies and reports that needed to be filed in connection with this particular case. As staff has pointed out in its report and read to you this evening, I'm happy to say that all of those studies have been completed and have met favorable review by staff. We also were able to incorporate into our site plan, as you might see on the 5th page, the request made by various commissioners throughout the course of this case, one being to double the number of handicap parking spaces in front of the building. 2 would have met code, but we were asked to provide 4, which we have. And we were also asked to consider some type of pervious or material for the parking area. I see Ms. McInnes has slipped out, so I won't get credit for trying to bring an apple to the teacher, particularly having been scolded. I should have brought a lot of apples about 3 hours ago. But no, but with all due respect, she made a good suggestion that we consider doing something other than asphalt to concrete for our parking area. And as you can see, we have limestone pads in that area, which hopefully, again, will assist. With regard to the waivers, the property is odd in that it has sort of an unusual angle, if you will, as it relates to the frontage, and that created some of the problem that we have as it relates to the need for the waiver. The other consideration, though, is if you look at the survey, which I guess is the 5th page, you'll see that we have a large pond that's right behind the site, meaning that we just don't have the ability to go back any further. We had some restraints. The second waiver that we asked for is a little unusual, I don't think problematic, But if you again look at the site plan, you will see that on the south side of the building, there is in fact a 20-foot side yard buffer, which certainly is plenty of buffer to meet code. What is interesting, however, is that we're only about 10 feet from an existing ditch. So staff brought up some concerns about whether or not the building integrity would be compromised in some way if it were within 10 feet of the ditch. So at the request of staff, we went to a structural engineer, and the last page in your packet is a letter from that structural engineer confirming that the appropriate design for the slab has been made, taking into account the proximity of the ditch, so that the structural integrity of the building is not in question. So with all of those things having been said, we believe that all of the studies required have been provided and have met muster. We have spoken to the neighbors on the north and also the business on the south, Chafunkta Animal Hospital, and they're very aware of what we're doing and how our site lays out, and no one obviously had any problem with what we're seeking as it relates to this approval this evening. So we ask you to grant approval to this plan review subject to the two specific waivers. If any of you have any questions, I'll be glad to address them.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Shane. Anyone in the audience wish to speak in favor? Anyone wish to speak against? I'm going to close it to the public and bring it back to the commission. Commissioner Truxillo.
Jeff, will you come back up, please? I want to make sure I heard you right. Will you repeat the handicap parking and the other things that you did? Was it some kind of limestone or something like that?
Yes, we put limestone in the parking pad area, a suggestion made by Commissioner McInnes a few months ago. So we swapped it out, and you'll see it there on the site plan.
Okay, we thank you for heeding, listening to our concerns and taking action on it. Thank you. This is to staff. The two waivers, are y'all okay with the two waivers?
The engineering department has stated they have no objection to the waiver to encroach upon the 20-foot setback on the southern portion of the site. I don't believe staff has issued any objection to the encroachment of the 100-foot setback.
Okay, good. Yeah, I've ridden by there several times, and I know about the pine and everything. And since there's no objection to the waivers, I make a motion to approve with the waivers.
With the waiver. Okay, thank you. Commissioner Crawford.
I'll second the motion with the waivers, please.
Second by Commissioner Crawford. Commissioner Redd.
Yeah, Jeff, I got one question for you there. So, I mean, the only thing that really seems to be of major concern is that the extension of the building beyond the 100 foot. I'm not really sure why that's in place. I guess if we wanted 100 feet, there's some reasoning behind the 100 feet. Otherwise, it'd be 65 feet.
What's in the plan corridor, and the plan corridor has specific regulations that require a vertical structure to be 100 feet from the front.
Okay, it's just so it's for the look going down the road. So are we going to change it to 65 feet? Is that the plan, or in the UDC write-up or something?
There's a possibility.
Okay. The question on your detention pond, is there any reason that pond couldn't have been pushed back towards that other pond, even connected to it, and then the building moved back? Or?
I believe the detention has to be provided on site. We'll be doing a minor subdivision and creating two legal lots of record, and the parcel had to provide for detention on
But it
site.
would mean the parcel lot line would have to be moved to do that, which hasn't occurred yet, I guess. Right now, is it two pieces of property or one?
It is one, but proposed to be two, as shown on the survey in your packet. We had not filed for the re-subdivision because we wanted to make sure that we were able to get the plan corridor review approved.
So there isn't, other than you're wanting to divide it a certain way, there really isn't a reason not to move the pond back, huh?
No, sir, there is a reason.
Okay.
The the pond needs to be on the site, and if you'll take a look at the survey, you'll see that shortly beyond the proposed dividing property line, there's an existing 2+ acre pond there.
Correct. Okay. I'm
Plus,
not
we
sure.
get into the flood zone area even further the farther back we go.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Okay. There's no one else in the queue. We have a motion and a second to approve with waivers. Please vote.
The motion to approve with waivers carries.
All right, we get down. All right, item 3 under the plan review, case is 2022-3064-PR. The use is Take 5 Car Wash, new construction. The corridor is the Highway 21 plan corridor. Zoning is HC2, Highway Commercial District. Use size is 4,130 square feet. Petitioner is BSREP2, Cypress TRS LLC, Michael Blank. Owner is the same. Location, parcel located on the east side of Louisiana Highway 21, north of Pinnacle Parkway, Covington, Ward 1 District 4. Postponed from the October 4th meeting. Staff?
The applicant has not provided any new plans since the postponement in the last zoning commission meeting. So as far as we know, they're still requesting the one waiver to the 30-foot setback in the rear yard requirement for the installation of an 8-foot sound barrier wall. If y'all are fine with approving that, they would still need to provide revisions to civil and landscape plans to provide cross-section details and setbacks from the property line.
Okay, thank you. I have a card for Chris Davis. Thank you for being patient.
No, thank you, Commission. Chris Davis here on behalf of the petitioner. First, I'd like to just kind of state out that our plan is consistent with the 2030 plan. Car wash is an approved use. Our plans meet all of the requirements other than the requested waiver specifically for the sound wall. That includes the landscaping, number of trees, the design, the setback. The only requested variance is for that sound wall, which was as a result of meeting with the community. They had a number of concerns, specifically noise, which I can speak to in a lot more detail. The sound wall originally requested by the neighborhood association was an 8-foot sound wall, as our notes from our meeting with them. They then, after the last meeting, requested a 10-foot sound wall. We have decided to just go ahead and do a 12-foot sound wall with a decibel rating of about 50 decibel decrease, which our car wash design is actually much quieter than the other proposed car wash. Our highest set decibel rating is about 70. That's at the very front of the property, facing away from the commercial, from the residential properties, and then it dissipates as you go back towards the property line. Our development would be, without any sound wall or anything else, would be consistent with the current sound, with about 50 decibels at the back property line, which is an additional 100 feet to the nearest house, 200 feet from the next nearest house. As mentioned earlier, the decibel, this is already on a very high traffic road, a lot of noise, 90 decibels today. The net decibel rating, even with the 8-foot sound wall, would be a net reduction for the property adjoining, for the residential properties, let alone putting in a 12-foot sound wall. Additional green space that was requested by them in the back of the property to reduce noise. So there really is no question about our development reducing sound. As it relates to the moratoria, I could be wrong. I'll defer to council, obviously. I believe it reads that it's related to CUPs and new applications. We've been working, with staff here for about a year on our plans, had a full plan submitted last month for approval prior to that decision. And we would just respectfully ask that even if you don't approve our full plans, that you would approve the waivers. There would still need to be a sound wall regardless of decision there. As we think that that's the right thing to do, having met with the community, even though, without it, our plan would still not be a net addition to any noise pollution, given the existing decibels of the street. That's all. Look forward to your questions at the appropriate time.
Okay, thank you. And the lady sitting in the back, do you wish to speak on any of this?
I'm actually with them.
Oh, you're with him? You gonna keep him straight?
Yeah.
All right, thank you. I'm gonna close it to the public and bring it back to the commission. Commissioner Smales.
So I assume, since the homeowners are not here, that this was satisfied their concerns, the 12-foot wall. Is that correct?
I can't speak to, exactly what they'll be. I mean, there are a few neighbors who are just opposed to this site being developed at all and have voiced that to us directly. So they would potentially be opposed. At the end of the last meeting, they requested a 10-foot sound wall. We just decided to go with 12-foot because we think, that's above and beyond their request, having moved up from 8 to 10 feet. And even without it, our plan satisfies, the current zoning, as well as, any net sound would be actually reduced by our development plan. If you look at the back of our property, it goes behind the next property over even. It's not just, our development is a straight line. It's an L-shaped property. So, this is a net addition to the neighborhood in terms of reducing sound. And we're going to do it all the way through. It probably wouldn't be a requirement, but that's our intention.
Very good. So I assume that since they're not here, they're probably satisfied, I guess. And this does fall under the Highway 21 corridor, correct? Even though the entrance is on Pinnacle Parkway. Okay. So I make a motion to approve. With the waiver.
We have a motion by Commissioner Spell to approve with the waiver. Mr. Barcelona.
I'll second.
All right, we have a second. I got a question. You're taking out a bunch of oak trees.
Yes, sir. Our plans include a green space in the back, additional landscaping barrier in the back, and we meet the requirements of the required inches of oak trees that the parish requires.
No way you can get around taking them out, huh?
I think I forget the number, but it's a couple of trees that will be removed. It's not everything. We're not clearing the whole property. There's the additional that L-shaped portion. We're not developing that at all. So that's going to be left, and then the rear of the property we're adding additional oak trees to meet the requirements. But anything we can leave, obviously we will, because that's additional cost to us having to replace them.
Okay, there was. Let me find it again. Well, it was in the staff report that, let's see here. The applicant is proposing to remove 9 of 20 existing oak trees. Is that correct?
Mr. Chairman, if I may, yes, they're proposing to remove 9 of 20.
Pardon?
They're proposing to remove 9 of 20. They're also proposing to replant based on the mitigation inches required. Staff has concerns about the number of live oaks proposed to be replanted on site and would like the freedom to work with the applicant to maybe have them plant half or so of the mitigation inches and possibly pay into the tree bank for the rest. We're just more so concerned about there being an overabundance of live oaks on the site and them not being in a protected area.
Okay, well, I guess we're kind of in a catch-22 on that, but those are such beautiful trees and everything. We're trying to save as many as we can. Commissioner Truxillo.
I just have a comment. I travel that area very, very often, and that spot has some beautiful, beautiful oak trees. 50-year-old, maybe 30, 50-year-old oak trees. They're gorgeous. And you're cutting 9 out of 20, but you can replace them with what size oak trees? Little twigs or what?
Staff has the technical plans, but no,
Come to the mic.
Excuse me?
Come to the mic.
I don't have the technical plans, unfortunately. My engineer was not able to be here with the exact inches, but I believe we went through it last time I was here. I believe they're around 20 inches on most of the trees to be replaced, but I defer.
The mitigation trees are being replaced by 4-inch live oaks.
4-inch?
4-inch.
4-inch?
Yes.
That's small. Okay. I just wanted to say that. Say it again.
Yeah, so that's caliper.
Yeah. I knew what you was talking about. You know. Yeah, I cut trees down before. Okay. But that is just such a beautiful, beautiful. Corner right there with all those trees and everything, and I hate to see you cut down all those oak trees, but I understand. But I'm against cutting down the trees, but I just want to make the comment. That's all.
Okay. All right, we have a motion and a second to approve with the waivers. Please vote.
The motion to approve with waiver carries.
Okay. All right, thank you, and we have no new business, no old business. Do I hear a motion to adjourn? Motion by Commissioner Fitzmaurice to adjourn. I can't understand.
You just put some in for that one.